Chapter 27:12. Guan Qianqiu had fought against Lu Li before, so he knew what Lu Li was capable of. Therefore, Guan Qianqiu chose the same tactic. He gathered wind and released beast shadows to attack Lu Li. Guan Qianqiu had passed the sixth heaven's tribulation and his soul had improved a lot. Even so, he didn't allow Lu Li to get close to him. Guan Qianqiu knew that Lu Li's soul attacks were powerful. What was more, Guan Qianqiu had the seven-colored glazed pagoda. If he were sucked in again, he would be humiliated. Not only would he not be able to avenge himself, but he might not be able to move up again. This time, there were 10 registered disciples. Guan Qianqiu didn't worry about the other 8. He only wanted to subdue Lu Li and take the bodies of the beasts in the void. Not only could he avenge himself, but he could also make sure that Lu Li could not move up. Guan Qianqiu would have one less competitor, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Phantoms of beasts whooshed toward Guan Qianqiu. This skill was several times more powerful than before. The same skill would be different when released by a warrior of the 5th tribulation and a warrior of the 6th tribulation. Guan Qianqiu's skill was more powerful while Lu Li had passed the 5th heaven's tribulation. He had improved in all aspects. His defense was much stronger. Therefore, the two of them were equal in this aspect. Of course, Guan Qianqiu's skill could hurt Lu Li before. If Lu Li had to fight back, he would be injured again. Boom, boom, boom. While Lu Li was using the voidless talismans, he also used divine energy to destroy the beasts coming at him. The voidless talismans and divine energy smashed into the shadows of the beasts, resulting in horrifying explosions. At the same time, Lu Li used the Wind Soul skill. Surges of soul energy floated over and reached Guan Qianqiu. Then, the soul energy pierced into Guan Qianqiu's soul. Soul attack. Guan Qianqiu's expressions changed. Last time, he was hit by such soul attacks and then was burned by Lu Li's 7-colored glazed pagoda's flames. If he were hit again, Lu Li's 7-colored glazed pagoda could suck him in and suppress him even if there were no flames in it. Therefore, Guan Qianqiu stepped back without any hesitation. At the same time, he took a black pellet which strengthened his soul. He had it ready. He had someone of the Guan family deliver it in secret to deal with Lu Li's soul attack. As soon as he took the pellet, Guan Qianqiu's soul became 10 times stronger. He could withstand Lu Li's soul attacks with ease. After he was sure that soul attacks could not harm him, he spun around Lu Li and released more phantoms of beasts at the same time. Isn't young Master Guan being a little too cautious? That's right. Let's just charge forward and heavily injure him in one move. Why waste time here? The 2 warriors at the peak of the 5th tribulation realm murmured. Lu Li's spirit of wind was so subtle that there was no fluctuation. They could not detect it. Senior brother Juan was also puzzled, but he didn't say anything. He just stared at the battle in the field. Boom, boom, boom. There were so many of them that Lu Li could not fend them all off. He was hit by one of them and was smashed away. His back was covered in blood, but it was only a superficial wound, not a serious one. His power has increased so much? Lu Li was speechless. He rolled his eyes, trying to figure out a way out. Although Guan Qianqiu was infuriated, he was no fool. He did not give him a chance to get close. Guan Qianqiu's soul seemed to have become stronger. Spirit of wind could not affect him, so Lu Li could not use the 7-colored glazed pagoda to attack. Guan Qianqiu was dozens of miles away, and he had been staring at Lu Li. As long as Lu Li used the 7-colored glazed pagoda, Guan Qianqiu would run away faster than a rabbit. The 7-colored glazed pagoda was fast, but it would be impossible for Lu Li to control it as if it was his own arm. Therefore, it was almost impossible for Lu Li to burn Guan Qianqiu with the flames inside. Charge! After some thoughts, Lu Li made up his mind and rushed toward Guan Qianqiu. He kept generating innocent talismans to disperse the beasts coming at him. Against the strong shockwaves, Lu Li approached Guan Qianqiu quickly. Ha ha! Guan Qianxiu grinned. Luli was losing patience. He had no other choice but to try his best to get closer to Guan Qianxiu. Guan Qianxiu moved around quickly, maintaining the distance between him and Luli. At the same time, he kept generating beast phantoms to attack Luli. Luli's defense was strong, but how long could he last? As Luli's wounds got worse, he might not be able to move at all, just like last time. Last time, Guan Qianxiu destroyed Luli's elixir, but in the end, he was hit by Luli's soul attack. But this time, he was prepared. Luli's soul attack could not hurt him. Guan Qianxiu was confident that he could defeat Luli this time. "Brother Guan, don't play with him. Just cripple him." Brother Lu shouted impatiently, seeing that Luli was chasing and Guan Qianxiu was just dodging and attacking with the beast phantoms made of wind. As far as he was concerned, Guan Qianxiu could hurt Luli with his wind-related fundamental principle. If Guan Qianxiu released more powerful moves, wouldn't he be able to injure Luli badly? Brother Ruan and the other man were confused as well. Was Guan Qianxiu trying to play a game of cat and mouse? But this was the sect's assessment. The fight had been dragged on for a long time, and the commotion here was not small. What if some senior warriors of the sect were attracted here? "Brothers, please wait a moment," Guan Qianxiu said with a bitter smile. "Luli has some tricks up his sleeves. I cannot let him get close, so I need some time to wear him down. Brothers, please wait." "All right." Brother Ruan and the other two men were not in a hurry. After all, they were not the ones fighting Luli. Even if senior warriors of the sect were to come, it was none of their business. If someone was to be punished, it should be Guan Qianxiu and Luli. Boom, boom, boom. Luli was chasing Guan Qianxiu, but he could not shorten the distance between them. Guan Qianxiu was at the sixth tribulation, and he was a bit faster than Luli. On top of that, there were so many beast phantoms attacking Luli. How could Luli get closer? Being attacked by the beast phantoms constantly, Luli's injuries were serious. If this went on, he would be seriously injured or even killed. There is a big gap between their abilities. Inside the castle, Emperor Jun shook his head and sighed. The other two Emperor Realm warriors nodded as well. They could tell that both of them were holding back. They could tell that Luli had released soul attack. Anyways, it was an undeniable fact that Luli's injuries were getting worse. If Luli had a move that could win, he would have used it long ago. He wouldn't be chasing after Guan Qianxiu. Luli won't be at a disadvantage? Patriarch Lu looked at Rui Emperor with a smile and said, "This punk is at a disadvantage now. If this goes on, he will be at a greater disadvantage. Little Rui, you are going to lose this time, right?" Rui Emperor and Patriarch Lu were betting that Luli would not be at a disadvantage. Judging by the current situation, Luli was at a disadvantage. Therefore, Patriarch Lu had won. Rui Emperor frowned. Last time, Luli defeated Guan Qianxiu with soul attacks and the seven-colored glazed pagoda. It seemed that soul attacks were not going to work this time. Could Luli turn the tables? Chapter 27:13. Luli turned the tables so quickly that everyone was dumbfounded. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Luli suddenly stopped on the spot. He took out the horn and blew it. The horn was a piece of treasure. Luli used the horn to release the law of divine sound, which increased the power of the law of divine sound. This time, Luli decided to use the horn to release spirit skill of wind. As long as the spirit skill of wind could be strengthened, Luli believed that he could injure Guan Qianxiu's soul easily. Once Guan Qianxiu's soul was injured, the rest would be easy. Luli withstood 3 attacks from the beast phantoms. The horn was blown. Invisible ripples spread out. However, the ripples were weakened after they spread out for thousands of feet. No, this is not the way. Luli moved from side to side to avoid the phantoms of the beast. He closed his eyes and listened to the sound of the horn, trying to find the connection between the horn and spirit skill of wind. He took more than a dozen attacks and his injuries were getting worse. He kept blowing the horn, but the sound was getting softer and softer. After a while, there was no more sound. It's done. Luli was overjoyed. Spirit skill of wind was invisible and soundless. The louder the sound of the horn was, the less successful the spirit skill of wind would be. After the sound of the horn disappeared, Luli noticed some gusts of wind were moving towards Guan Qianqiu. What is he doing? Brother Lu and Brother Ruan were confused. Luli took out a horn and blew it. After a while, there was no sound. Was there something wrong with his brain after being smashed? No, this artifact is powerful. Brother Ruan's eyes glowed. He had noticed something was wrong. Guan Qianqiu stopped all of a sudden. He was in a panic. Guan Qianqiu was not an idiot. He had been moving fast. Something must have gone wrong when he suddenly stopped. They were so far away. The only thing that could make Guan Qianqiu go wrong was soul attacks. This man is good at soul attacks. Brother Ruan shouted. When he noticed that Guan Qianqiu didn't attack again and Luli was approaching Guan Qianqiu, he shouted, "Oh no, Brother Guan is going to lose. This horn really is a treasure." On the other hand, Luli couldn't help but sigh. The horn had a bonus effect on soul-type attack. Previously, his wind soul technique was unable to injure Guan Qianqiu at all. But now, when he used the horn, Guan Qianqiu's soul was injured. This horn had probably strengthened his wind soul technique by several times. Luli took out the 7-colored glazed pagoda. The pagoda shone in 7 colors. Surges of divine might spread out. A simple yet mighty energy spread out. Luli waved his hand and the pagoda flew toward Guan Qianqiu in a blur. Guan Qianqiu's soul was in chaos. At this moment, his soul was injured, and he didn't care about what was happening outside. If he didn't focus on dealing with the situation in his soul would probably collapse. He sensed that the 7-colored glazed pagoda was getting closer, and he also sensed that his life was in danger. However, there was nothing he could do. He felt a wave of regret in his heart. His soul had always been his shortcoming. If he had known this earlier, he would have begged the Patriarch to bestow him a 9th-grade demon soul. Monarch weapon. Senior Brother Ruan raised his eyebrows, and the corners of Senior Brother Lu's mouth twitched slightly. They didn't expect a mere early-stage 5th tribulation cultivator to have a Tharch weapon. It was not an average Tharch weapon either. Clearly it was valuable. Is he a young master from a wealthy family? But I have never heard of such a person. There is no wealthy family with the surname Lu in the endless ruins of divinity. Senior Brother Lu murmured. There were many Tharch weapons in the endless ruins of divinity, and the Heaven Emperor sect had even more. That being said, it was extremely difficult to get a Tharch weapon unless one was a disciple from a wealthy family or a powerful warrior. The 7-colored glazed pagoda flew to Guan Qianqiu. Luli was hesitating. Should he release the flames to burn Guan Qianqiu or suck him in? Either way, there would be trouble and eventually, the higher-ups of the Heaven Emperor sect would be informed. Therefore, Luli made up his mind. He wanted to burn Guan Qianqiu half to death and destroy his pellet to get back at Guan Qianqiu for destroying his pellet 3 years ago. In the end, Luli put up with it. He had this feeling that there were many eyes staring at him. This feeling was not accurate, but Luli didn't want to take the risk. What if there were some Tharch realm warriors hiding nearby? Luli didn't burn Guan Qianqiu to death or suck him in. Instead, he let the 7-colored glazed pagoda smash down at Guan Qianqiu. Boom! Guan Qianqiu felt as if he had been hit by a mountain. There was no doubt that a Tharch weapon was as heavy as a mountain. That being said, Guan Qianqiu's defense was strong. The impact only made his qi and blood tumble. He didn't suffer serious injuries. Boom! The 7-colored glazed pagoda flew up and smashed down again. In the time for one breath, the 7-colored glazed pagoda had smashed 5 times. On the other side, Luli kept blowing the horn to attack Guan Qianqiu's soul. Boom, boom, boom. Guan Qianqiu was smashed several times. Soon, his head was bleeding and he was injured in many places. His physical body was strong after he became a lord. He didn't even try to defend himself. He was only defending passively. Surprisingly, he wasn't injured. If he wasn't injured, then he would keep on smashing. Lu Li didn't stop. He had gained the upper hand, but the fight had begun. He could not stop halfway. At the very least, he had to make Guan Qianqiu lose the ability to fight. At the same time, he took some healing pellets and began to recover. Even though Brother Ruan and the others didn't intend to make a move, it was better to be on guard. What if Brother Ruan made a move? Ding Anji and Vulture were afraid of this man, which meant that he was very strong. In the blink of an eye, Lu Li only took the time for 1 or 2 incense sticks to burn to turn the tables. Inside the castle, Lord Lu had been smiling, but now, he pulled a long face. He just told Emperor Rui that Lu Li had won. How could he be happy when he was humiliated? This horn is a piece of treasure from the ancient times. Emperor Jun stared at Lu Li's horn and said, "The runes, the texture, the qi, they all seem to be from the ancient times. Where did he get it? It is as powerful as an average Tharch weapon. It can enhance the soul so much. Emperor Rui, you have won again." Not necessarily. The smile on Emperor Rui's face was gone. Instead, he said solemnly, "I think Ruan Shiji is going to make a move. Ruan Shiji is one of the most powerful disciples in this assessment. Lu Li is not a match for him." Ruan Shiji came with Guan Qianqiu. He could be counted as Guan Qianqiu's help. If Ruan Shiji and the other two could defeat Lu Li, then Lu Li would be at a disadvantage. By then, Emperor Rui would lose. Ha ha! Lord Lu raised his eyebrows and said, "They are making a move. The 3 of them are shameless. 3 against 1, and it is a sneak attack. But well done. I thought I would lose for sure. Things have changed." Chapter 27:14. 3 against 1, and they were official disciples bullying a registered disciple. This was shameless behavior. Usually, Patriarch Lu would have cursed. But now, he was smiling. It was not a big deal for disciples to have a fight. Guan Qianqiu was right about one thing. Only a group of cubs could give birth to a beast king. A group of lambs was destined to be slaughtered. Nobody dared to mess with the Heaven Emperor sect. How could disciples cultivate their courage? They would have to fight among themselves. They could fight, but they couldn't fight without principles. For example, this kind of 3 against 1. That was no principle. It was not a big deal to have no principles and bad character. Everyone had their flaws, and no one was perfect. Everyone had emotions and desires. This was understandable. As long as there was humanity, it was not a big deal. If there was no humanity, disciples like this would be banished. There was no room for negotiation. Patriarch Lu thought he had lost. He didn't expect that Ruan Shiji and the other 2 would make a move. Patriarch Lu didn't like their behavior, but he had a bet with Emperor Rui. Naturally, he hoped the 3 could defeat Lu Li. Lu Li had been keeping an eye on the 3. As soon as they moved, he realized what was going on. He blew his horn at once and used Soul of Wind to attack the 3. Guan Qianqiu didn't have to worry too much. He could barely take care of himself. As long as Lu Li could defeat the 3, the crisis would be over. Soul of Wind was a soul skill created by Patriarch Daotian, and it was very powerful. Lu Li learned a secret skill from Tian Yazi. He could turn all his soul energy into soul needles to make his soul attacks more powerful. Brother Lu and Guan Qianqiu had been in the sect for more than 1,000 years, and they had always been at the peak of the 5th tribulation, the lowest level disciples. Clearly, the 2 were not strong and their families were not the best. Naturally, the enchanted souls in their souls were not strong. Therefore, after being attacked by Soul of Wind, the 2 froze on the spot. They felt gusts of wind sneaking into their souls like loaches. Their enchanted souls were defenseless. As these soul needles began to attack without restraint, fear appeared in the minds of the two. They had been looking down on Luli. They thought he was only at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation and a registered disciple. How strong could he be? Little did they know that this was a beast in sheep's clothing. Luli was a powerful soul warrior. Luli breathed in relief. He locked on to Ruan Shiji with psychic power and attacked Ruan Shiji with wind soul skill like a storm. This person's soul is so strong. Luli's mind was weighed down. Ruan Shiji acted as if nothing had happened. Luli's soul attack was so fierce that if Ruan Shiji couldn't stand it, he would have been hit and immobilized. Hiss, the rod in Ruan Shiji's hand grew larger. There was a yellowish airstream circling around it, giving it a heavy feeling. The rod was like a mountain with a height of 100,000 feet. Ruan Shiji held it in his hand and smashed it at Luli. The iron rod was so fast that it was already in front of Luli when it was still several miles away. Luli had no other choice. He swung his fists, mobilized the energy in his acupuncture points, and smashed at the rod with tremendous force. Boom! A huge iron rod collided with a puny human being. But it was like a meteorite colliding with the earth. The space near Luli trembled all of a sudden. A muffled noise echoed in the wilderness. Luli was smashed away for several miles. The iron rod bounced back as well. Luli remained calm. There was still blood on the corner of his mouth. The rod made his blood tumble. His divine energy was messed up and his internal organs were shaken. When the rod came down, it carried with it the might of heaven and earth. An average warrior at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation would have been reduced to a mist of blood. Here come 3 more times. Ruan Shiji put on a white armor and held the iron rod in his hand. He was awe-inspiring like a god of war. He kept swinging the huge iron rod at Luli. Before Luli could react, the iron rod had already smashed down on him. Boom, boom, boom. The iron rod was smashed 3 times in a row. Luli was knocked back for hundreds of miles. He could no longer hold back the blood in his mouth. He spat it out 3 mouthfuls. His hands were bleeding. The iron rod was not a sovereign weapon, but it was a piece of treasure nonetheless. The rod must have weighed tens of thousands of pounds. It was not the weight of the rod that mattered. What mattered was that Ruan Shiji must have used the fundamental principle of earth. Every time the rod landed, Luli felt like he was being crushed by a mountain. Luli's physical body was strong. Otherwise, not even warriors at the peak of the fifth tribulation could stand it. What? Luli wiped the blood off his mouth. He was a bit relieved to see that Ruan Shiji had stopped attacking. But the next second, he was taken aback. He just realized that there was a lot of energy hiding in his body. The energy was gathering in 3 parts of his body, forming 3 huge masses of energy. One was near his pellet, one was near his internal organs, and the last one was near his soul. No wonder Ding Anji and Vulture were so scared of Ruan Shiji. Luli finally understood. Ruan Shiji was so strong that Guan Qianxiu could not even be compared to him. Just now, Ruan Shiji only hit him 4 times with the rod. While he was attacking fiercely, Ruan Shiji had secretly transferred some energy into Luli's body. Now the energy was gathering together. Clearly, it was going to explode. The explosion near the pellet should not be a problem. The pellet was solid and would not explode. At worst, Luli's meridians would be damaged and he would not be able to use divine energy. The internal organs were not that important. Even if they were destroyed, Luli would only suffer a serious injury. Once the soul was destroyed, the consequences would be dire. Luli's soul could be destroyed. Seeing that Luli was taken aback, Ruan Shiji said with pride, "Punk, if you don't want to die, then hand over the bodies of the beasts in your interspatial ring. Also, stop attacking the 3 of them. I promise you that no one will harm your life. How about that?" Ruan Shiji stopped after 4 strikes. Naturally, he believed that there was no need to continue. With a single thought, the three masses of energy could explode. Not only would Lu Li be injured, he might even die. Phew, phew! Lu Li's breaths were getting heavier. He felt that Ruan Shiji was a mountain, an insurmountable one. Lu Li's soul could not hurt Ruan Shiji, and the seven-colored glazed pagoda could not get close. Lu Li's means were nothing to Ruan Shiji. However, once Lu Li handed over the bodies of the beasts, he would be disqualified and driven out. The Guan family would not let him go. Without the protection of the Heaven Emperor sect, he would be doomed. Lu Li thought for a while and looked up. His eyes glowed in red. He grinned and said, "I don't have the bodies of the beasts, but I do have a life. Take it." Boom. As soon as he finished his words, he heard an explosion from his abdomen. Then, his abdomen was blown up. Pieces of intestines and flesh flew everywhere. The first mass of energy had exploded. Killing intent rose in Ruan Shiji's eyes. "Punk, don't think that I am joking with you. You are just a nominal disciple. Even if I kill you, the sect will not expel me. Are you going to give it to me or not? If not, then die." "No!" Chapter 27:15. Lu Li had made up his mind. He wanted to take a gamble and see if Ruan Shiji had the guts to kill him. Lu Li was a registered disciple, and it was possible that he would not be a registered disciple soon. But if someone died, the higher-ups would pay attention. If the higher-ups thought that Ruan Shiji was an inhumane guy who liked to kill each other, then Ruan Shiji's future would be over. Sacrificing his future to help Guan Qianqiu? Lu Li believed that Ruan Shiji would not be so impulsive or stupid. There was no grudge between him and Guan Qianqiu and Lu Li. Boom! What Lu Li didn't know was that as soon as he finished his words, his chest suddenly exploded. His internal organs were all shattered. Many ribs in his chest were broken and there were blood holes on his chest and back. That was to say, apart from his hands, feet and head, Lu Li's body was smashed. If it weren't for the fact that his body was strong and some important bones were not broken, his head would have been separated from his body. Poof! Lu Li spat out blood again. He trembled and his eyes rolled back. He almost passed out before he could breathe. He was badly injured this time. He didn't feel his body belonged to him anymore. Many parts of his abdomen, chest and back were smashed. This was the first time he had been injured like this. He was smashed away as well. He floated in midair. There was almost no gravity here, so he wouldn't fall down. He couldn't even open his eyes and he couldn't move his hands and feet. His source of life was severely injured. This time, the injury was too serious. He could feel his breath of life was weakening. If it disappeared completely, then it would be the time of his death. Lu Li. Ruan Shiji looked at Lu Li floating in the air like a maggot. He didn't feel sorry for him. Instead, he asked coldly, "Don't think I am joking with you. I will ask you one last time. Are you going to give it to me or not?" Lu Li couldn't breathe. He opened his eyes and moved his mouth. After he made sure that he could speak, he used all his strength and shouted, "Kill me. If you don't, you are my grandson. You are my grandson." Lu Li's voice was not loud. He was so badly injured that it was not easy for him to shout. He shouted with all his strength. Even Ruan Shiji was moved by Lu Li's hysterical look. This kid was really not afraid of death. Ruan Shiji was silent. He didn't take the next step. The reason why he came this time was that he had a deep relationship with the Guan family. On the surface, his family had been on good terms with the Guan family for generations, and they had even been connected by marriage several times. In fact, the Ruan family relied on the Guan family to rise to power. More than 10,000 years ago, the Ruan family was still a vassal family of the Guan family. In other words, Guan Qianqiu, the #1 expert of the younger generation, could be considered his young master. He had received orders to help Guan Qianqiu advance at all costs. The exotic beasts the three of them killed were all given to Guan Qianqiu. Thus, Guan Qianqiu had an absolute advantage in terms of points. The only thing that worried Ruan Shiji was Guan Qianqiu's competitor, Lu Li. Therefore, he wanted to take Lu Li's beast gang over to Guan Qianqiu. He didn't know if there were any experts monitoring the surroundings, but even if there were, he was already planning to do it. He knew the unspoken rules of the celestial sect. They could have internal strife, but they couldn't lose their humanity. Therefore, he could injure Lu Li badly but not kill him. Otherwise, Lu Li would be in big trouble and Guan Qianqiu would be implicated as well. As a matter of fact, he could knock Lu Li out easily so that he could take Lu Li's interspatial ring. But he didn't do that. Instead, he asked Lu Li to hand it over. If Lu Li gave in to his pressure and handed over the fruits of his labor, Lu Li could record this scene with a memory crystal. By then, Lu Li's path to advancement would be completely blocked. After Lu Li handed over the interspatial ring, Lu Li planned to have Lu Li admit that he had lost and even beg for mercy. Once Lu Li begged for mercy to save his life, he would be looked down upon by the higher-ups of the celestial sect. In that case, Lu Li would have no hope of becoming an official disciple. If Lu Li had no hope, then Guan Qianqiu had hope. The idea was simple, but it was troublesome in practice. Lu Li was so stubborn. Was Lu Li really going to kill Lu Li? If killing Lu Li could help Guan Qianqiu stay and he wouldn't be in big trouble, then Lu Li would not hesitate. The problem was, killing Lu Li would be in big trouble. Kill me? What are you waiting for? Bastard, come and kill me! After the time for a few breaths, Lu Li shouted again. Blood was still coming out of his mouth, so when he shouted, there was blood in his voice. He looked ferocious and terrifying, like a lonely wolf. Ruan Shiji's heart skipped a beat again. Begging for death? This kid is a madman. This kid is stubborn. Inside the castle, the group of Imperial Realm warriors were silent. Looking at Lu Li's miserable state, they didn't feel sorry for him. But Lu Li's expression, his unyielding fighting spirit, his determination to die, touched them. To be able to reach the Imperial Realm, everyone here had been through bloody battles. Once upon a time, they had experienced such tragic moments. They had moments of stubbornness as well. Looking at Lu Li, some of them felt they were seeing themselves in the past. Of course, as the higher-ups of the celestial sect, they would not help the weak just because they sympathized with them. They would not even help them cheat. As higher-ups, they saw things from a different perspective. What did a sect need? The strong, the victor. The weak deserved sympathy, but the sect would not give them any resources. Since Guan Qianqiu had lost, no matter what the reason was, it meant that he was not as good as the others. It didn't matter if the victor used schemes, relied on true strength, or even used some underhanded methods. As long as the winner was humane, the higher-ups of the celestial sect would allow it. There was no reason in this world. The weak were prey to the strong, and only the fittest survived. In the end, Guan Qianqiu was the victor of this battle. Elder Lu and the Rui Emperor's wager was still the victor. But Patriarch Lu didn't seem to be too excited. He was even a bit bored. He felt it was embarrassing to win 60 bottles of myriad flower wine. All of a sudden, a glint of coldness rose in Emperor Rui's eyes. There was a hint of killing intent. Emperor Jun and the others looked over and frowned as well. They noticed that Guan Qianqiu suddenly opened his eyes. He looked to Lu Li in the distance. A glint of viciousness rose in his eyes. Carrying that sovereign weapon, he dashed toward Lu Li. The killing intent around Guan Qianqiu was strong. What else could he do with the sovereign weapon? Clearly, he was going to torture Lu Li or even kill him. Lord Li. Emperor Rui turned to the black-robed old man in the corner of the castle who hadn't said a word or opened his eyes. Emperor Rui asked, "Do we need to intervene?" Emperor Rui could not stand it anymore. Lu Li was in such a state and Guan Qianqiu was going to torture him. It was inhumane. What if Guan Qianxiu went mad and killed Lu Li? Chapter 27:16. Lord Li was the highest supervisor of the sex assessment and the most powerful one here. He enjoyed a high status in the sect. Usually, Emperor Rui and the others could not interfere with the sex assessment unless Lord Li agreed. Guan Qianxiu was charging toward Lu Li. Lu Li might lose his life. How could Lord Li forbid Emperor Rui from interfering? This made people wonder. Was Lord Li siding with Guan Qianxiu? Was Lord Li related to the Guan family? Or was he related to the late Emperor Guan? Emperor Rui bit his lips but said nothing. He stared at Lu Li and so did the others. They wanted to see what would happen to Lu Li. Guan Qianxiu was enraged. He was defeated by Lu Li again. Even after reaching the sixth tribulation, he was still no match for Lu Li, which made him feel ashamed. More importantly, he was afraid that the fight just now would be seen by some Emperor Realm warriors hiding nearby. If there were indeed some Emperor Realm warriors hiding around, his impression of him would be affected by a warrior at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation. He might not be able to make the breakthrough this time. Even if he did, it would be impossible for him to be trained. In other words, Lu Li had ruined his dignity, his pride and his future in this fight. Another thing was that Ruan Shiji would report everything to the Ruan family. By then, the Guan family would know as well. Guan Qianxiu would be regarded as a good-for-nothing by the higher-ups of the Guan family, therefore, Guan Qianxiu was enraged. Now that the energy in his soul was cleared, he flew toward Lu Li at once. He stared at Lu Li, who was floating on the ground like a maggot. Guan Qianxiu's eyes were filled with killing intent. Whoosh! Guan Qianxiu swung his sword. A ray of dark golden sword light landed on Lu Li's waist. Lu Li's body was already in a mess and now it was even more so. He was smashed away as well. Lu Li, you are about to die. How can you still be so arrogant? Guan Qianxiu flew toward Lu Li and shouted with a ferocious look. Arrogance, keep it up. Stand up and keep it up. Whoosh. Another strike and Lu Li was smashed away again. Lu Li seemed to be passing out. His eyes were closed and he was barely breathing. He could die at any moment. Stand up and keep it up. Guan Qianxiu bellowed, come on, where is your soul attack? Why aren't you releasing it? Come and attack me. Ruan Shiji's mouth twitched. He found Guan Qianxiu's actions somewhat shameless. What kind of skill was needing a dying person? However, he didn't interfere. He knew that Guan Qianxiu was suppressing his anger, and it was good for him to vent it. Even if Lu Li was killed, it was none of his business. Stand up, stand up. Guan Qianxiu released 3 or 4 strikes in a row, his mouth continuing to howl like a madman. Seeing that Lu Li wasn't moving, he stopped attacking from a distance. He swung his sword and flew towards Lu Li. He was ready to finish what he couldn't do last time, cut off Lu Li's hands and feet and turn him into a meatball. Ha! He shouted and approached Lu Li quickly. A cruel smile appeared on his face. He didn't think of anything else except to torture Lu Li and vent the anger that he had been suppressing for a long time. Just as he was about to reach Lu Li, Guan Qianxiu sensed a fatal danger in his soul. Guan Qianxiu's pupils contracted. He looked at Lu Li's face, only to see that Lu Li's eyes were open, filled with coldness. Guan Qianxiu had seen this look before. It was the same look he had at the recruitment ceremony, like a beast waking up from a deep sleep. Oh no! Based on instinct, Guan Qianxiu felt something was wrong. He stepped back quickly. Right at that moment, Lu Li moved as well. He lifted his hand and a ray of golden light came out. He waved his arm. Buzzing! All of a sudden, a shadow came out from behind Lu Li. It was a huge golden chain. The chain was so powerful that it was many times stronger than a sovereign artifact. As Lu Li moved his hand, the golden chain swept over and hit Guan Qianxiu's waist at once. With a scream, the chain struck the lower half of Guan Qianqiu's body, instantly turning it into a bloody mist. Guan Qianqiu was only left with the lower half of his body, and he was sent flying like a broken sack. What? Ruan Shiji and the other two warriors at the peak of the fifth tribulation, who had just woken up, were stunned. The three of them thought they had seen it wrong. They blinked and looked over to Luli. However, the shadow of the golden chain had disappeared. They looked over to Guan Qianqiu, who had passed out and only half of his body was left. Finally, they were sure that it was not an illusion. It was real. Did Luli use an artifact? Or was it a skill that crushed half of Guan Qianqiu's body into a mist of blood? Guan Qianqiu was a powerful warrior of the Lord Realm, and he had a super relic armor. How could Luli injure him so badly? If that chain had hit Guan Qianqiu's upper body, would he still be alive? What is that? Is that a holy weapon? Ruan Shiji and the other two were not the only ones stunned. The group of great Emperor Realm warriors in the castle were shocked as well. Just now, the golden chain was so powerful that it gave them the impression that it was a holy weapon. Of course, it was not as powerful as a holy weapon, but it was enough to stun them. It is not a holy weapon. The first one to speak was Lordly. He said emotionlessly, "If I am right, that is a chain of order." Chain of order? Everyone's eyes glowed. 3 or 4 of the great Emperor Realm warriors even had excitement in their eyes. They had all heard of it, but none of them had seen it. How could such a thing really exist? And it was in the hands of a nominal disciple? Overlord ranked were also human, and they had emotions and desires, as well as greed. There were probably at least 3 out of 10 Overlord ranked present who were greedy, if it really was a God sequence chain. If it really was a chain of order, it would be more useful in their hands. It would be a waste in Luli's hands. "All right," Lordly suddenly said, "Emperor Rui, come out and end this farce. Bring Luli out and make him an official disciple. Well, how about you take him in as a personal disciple? Train him well. You don't have to think about his chain of order. It has become one with him. If he dies, the chain of order will be destroyed as well." Hearing Lord Li's words, some people's eyes dimmed. They felt it was a pity that they did not have the chance to get such a thing. Luli had it. What a waste. Okay. Emperor Rui nodded. He did not show any emotion, but his eyes were filled with relief. He had been thinking about taking Luli as a personal disciple for a long time. It was a pity that Luli did not make it to the next rank at the recruitment ceremony. As soon as he became a nominal disciple, Luli was taken away by a martial emperor. He did not have any thoughts about the God sequence chains. He had climbed up step by step from the bottom. He knew very well that some fateful encounters could not be forced. If it was something that belonged to him, he would not be able to run away. If he tried to force something that did not belong to him, it would ruin his Tao heart. Emperor Rui admired Luli. Looking at Luli reminded him of himself when he was young. Chapter 27:17. In the chaotic void, Ruan Shiji and the other two didn't know what to do. They were here to help Guan Qianqiu break through. Now that Luli had demonstrated such lethality, the 3 of them were stunned. They were in a dilemma. Should they continue to suppress Luli or leave with Guan Qianqiu? "Go and save young Master Guan," Ruan Shiji said to one of them after some thoughts. That person flew to Guan Qianqiu at once but kept his eyes on Luli, fearing that the golden chain would turn him into a mist of blood. Luckily, Luli didn't move. He closed his eyes again and his qi and energy became weak again. He was half dead just like before. Brother Lu made it to Guan Qianqiu successfully. He fed him healing pellets at once and helped Guan Qianqiu recover. The iron rod in Ruan Shiji's hand glowed. He had been guarding against Luli. When Brother Lu put Guan Qianqiu into his interspatial ring, Ruan Shiji was a bit relieved. At least, they could move forward or retreat now that Guan Qianqiu was safe. His psychic power was locked on to Lu Li. Suddenly, he noticed something. Lu Li's wounds were recovering at a horrifying speed. Lu Li was taken aback. If Lu Li's wounds were all healed and he released the golden chain, Lu Li would end up like Guan Qianqiu. Therefore, he had to either retreat now or take action now. Ruan Shiji was struggling. Even though he could explode Lu Li's head with just one thought, Ruan Shiji didn't dare to act rashly. After all, if he killed Lu Li, his life might be over. Wait, Ruan Shiji tried to sense the energy in Lu Li's mind. Ruan Shiji noticed that the energy was melting and being consumed by Lu Li quickly. Surging soul energy rushed out from Lu Li's soul and consumed Ruan Shiji's energy. Even if Ruan Shiji wanted to explode now, he wouldn't be able to do much harm to Lu Li. Should I fight or retreat? Ruan Shiji's eyes flickered. Eventually, he made up his mind. His iron rod could be used to attack from a distance. Lu Li was so badly injured. Could he activate that artifact or release that move twice in a row? Ruan Shiji didn't think so. Ha ha! As soon as Ruan Shiji flew up, Lu Li suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at Ruan Shiji and said in a weak but firm voice, "You can try. Next time, I cannot guarantee that I can control it as well. Maybe you will lose your head." Before Lu Li said anything, he glanced at Ruan Shiji. Ruan Shiji's heart skipped a beat and he almost turned around to leave. However, after Lu Li's words, Ruan Shiji wasn't afraid anymore. If Lu Li really had this ability, would he still need to threaten him? Couldn't he just release those golden chains and smash his lower body into pieces? Why waste your breath? Hiss, therefore, without any hesitation, Ruan Shiji's iron rod grew bigger and bigger. His small body swung the huge iron rod at Lu Li. If he retreated without attacking, he wouldn't be able to explain himself to the Guan clan. Therefore, he wanted to knock Lu Li out and then rob him of his interspatial ring. If he could get the golden chain that Lu Li just released, everything would be perfect. *T. Lu Li watched as the huge iron rod smashed down. He had no ability to fight back. He was badly injured and his spirit was weak. His vitality was at its weakest. He did use the divine chain of order. That was by chance. Even though he wanted to do it again, his body was so weak that he couldn't do it even if he could. That strike just now had already exhausted all the strength in his body. He could only watch as the iron rod smashed down. He didn't know if Ruan Shiji would kill him or not. But there was nothing he could do at the moment. He had to endure it. Hiss, the huge iron rod whooshed down with an evil spirit. Before it reached Lu Li, the horrifying energy had worsened Lu Li's injuries. Almost all the blood in his body had run out. There was nothing left to bleed. Many wounds were healing, but under the pressure of the energy, they cracked again. When the rod came down, half of his body would be smashed into pieces again. Buzzing. Right at that moment, the space around Lu Li began to tremble. Then, Xian Qi in heaven and earth began to gather toward him. A long and slender hand came into being and reached for the iron rod. Bang! When the iron rod and the giant hand collided, there was only a slight sound. The iron rod was caught by the giant hand and could no longer move. Instead, the giant hand shook, and Ruan Shiji's body was shaken back. The iron rod in the giant hand slowly shrank. Buzzing! The huge hand disappeared. The iron rod floated in midair. But Ruan Shiji didn't show any intention to put it away. Instead, his face turned pale. He thought about it. Then, he knelt in midair and shouted, "I am guilty!" Senior Brother Lu and the other person immediately knelt down. Only a great emperor could perform such a trick. He wanted to attack Lu Li, but the emperor had interfered. Either way, it was Lu Li's fault. The emperor was displeased. Lu Li's eyes glowed. He was excited. There was an emperor lurking nearby. However, when he thought about it, he became worried again. He had revealed the God sequence chain just now. Would it be snatched away by this overlord level? Buzzing. Space began to tremble. Then a man came out. He was not tall. He was wearing a cyan robe. He had the temperament of an elegant military counselor. Who else could it be other than Emperor Rue? Emperor Rue. Luli was relieved to see this man. This emperor seemed to have been nice to him at the ceremony. He had seen Luli cheating several times. Why didn't he point it out? Ruan Shiji. Emperor Rue didn't pull a long face after he came. He was just cold. Looking at Ruan Shiji and the other two warriors, he said, "You three, go to the Hall of Discipline and ask for punishment. As for Guan Qianqiu, send him to the Celestial Emperor City. Ask the Guan family to bring him back. Tell the Guan family that this generation is not as good as the previous generations." Yes. What else could Ruan Shiji say? He was thankful that Emperor Rue didn't punish him directly. He could go to the Hall of Discipline and ask someone to plead for mercy. The punishment wouldn't be too severe. Ruan Shiji put away his rod and left with his three warriors. Guan Qianqiu was confirmed to be eliminated. Ruan Shiji could give the Guan family an explanation based on Emperor Rue's words. He had tried his best. In the end, this was no longer his fault. After the three warriors left, Luli tried to open his eyes. He tried to kneel down but his body wouldn't listen. He moved his lips and said, "Luli, greetings, Emperor Rue." "Okay, you don't have to say more." Emperor Rue put on a kind face. He looked at Luli and said, "You have been accepted as an official apprentice. You have done well. You have won everyone's approval." As I thought, Luli's heart skipped a beat. His feeling was right. Someone had been watching him. His every move was seen by many emperors. Luli was relieved. With so many people watching, nobody would have the guts to take his divine chains of order, right? At least no one would dare to act recklessly in public, right? Chapter 27:18. The Triennial Sect Assessment was one of the most important events for the Celestial Emperor Sect's disciples. Because during each sect assessment there would be people who would be promoted and people who would be demoted. Promotion meant a higher status and more resources. Demotion was needless to say. Not only would they lose face in the sect, but their status would also decrease a lot of resources. The Celestial Emperor Sect had almost no wars and no faction dared to provoke them. Their disciples lived in peace all year round. It was common sense to live in hardship and die in peace. That was why the Celestial Emperor Sect came up with a disciple ranking system to give them a sense of crisis and to prevent them from slacking off. White, gold, black. The Celestial Emperor Sect had tens of thousands of disciples. Most of them had white and yellow badges. There were only about 300 gold badges and a dozen black badges. They were the core and elite disciples of the Celestial Emperor Sect's younger generation. Above the black badge disciple rank was the elder rank. To become an elder in the Celestial Emperor Sect, one's combat power was at least at the quasi-emperor rank. There were a few hundred elders in the Celestial Emperor Sect, which meant that there were also a few hundred quasi-emperors. Above quasi-emperors was the emperor rank, which was the core power of the Celestial Emperor Sect. Ordinary matters were handled by emperors, and the few heavenly emperors didn't care. They would only appear for major events. The Celestial Emperor Sect had a strict ranking system. There was only one way to rise, and that was through strength. Strength depended on oneself and the sect's nurturing. If one wanted to be nurtured by the sect, they could only advance in the Triennial Sect Assessment. That was why the sect assessment was so important and attracted so much attention. There were still 2 to 3 months before the sect assessment would end. However, there was a piece of news today that a few people had ended the sect assessment early. An announcement was made in the Elders' Hall. Registered disciple Guan Qianqiu was eliminated. White badge disciples Ruan Shiji, Lu Tianxiong, and Chen Sanyuan were sentenced to 100 years of confinement and couldn't participate in the sect assessment for 1,000 years. Registered disciple Lu Li was promoted to a white badge disciple and was accepted as a personal disciple by the Rui Emperor. The three pieces of news spread like wildfire throughout the Celestial Emperor sect and caused a huge commotion among the white badge disciples. Yuan Shiji had been in seclusion for several decades. After coming out, his combat strength had soared and he had even competed with several powerful white badge disciples. Many people believed that he would definitely be promoted to a yellow badge disciple this time. He did not expect Yuan Shiji to be directly eliminated and even be confined for 100 years. Most importantly, he would not be able to participate in the sect's assessment for 1,000 years. In other words, Yuan Shiji could only be a white emblem disciple for the next 1,000 years and enjoy the treatment of a white emblem disciple. Yuan Shiji was already so strong, yet he still wanted to stay as a disciple of the white emblem for 1,000 years. This was a huge blow to him, whether it was his mentality, reputation, or so on. If Yuan Shiji couldn't get through this, it would be difficult for him to rise again in the future. In addition, Guan Qianqiu had always been the center of attention. The Heavenly Emperor sect had an old Guan Di, and he was a very famous great emperor. Even though he was dead, his prestige was still there. In addition, there were two elders from the Guan clan and many other influential figures that were related to the Guan clan. One could say that the Guan clan's influence in the Heavenly Emperor sect was pretty good. Guan Qianqiu had reached the sixth tribulation when he was only a registered disciple. As far as many people were concerned, Guan Qianqiu would definitely become an official disciple. Even if they didn't care about the old Guan Di or the Guan family's influence, Guan Qianqiu's abilities alone should be enough for the sect to recruit him. Unexpectedly, Guan Qianqiu was eliminated before the sect's assessment was over. If it wasn't a normal elimination, then something must have gone wrong. In other words, Guan Qianqiu might not be able to enter the Heavenly Emperor sect in the future. The most important news was that Lu Li had advanced directly and became Emperor Rui's personal disciple. This news was even more sensational than the previous two pieces of news. Many people were envious. This was even more envious than Lu Li's advancement to Huang Emblem. Huang Emblem had many disciples, but few great emperors' personal disciples. There were only dozens of great emperors. Many great emperors didn't even care about the sect's affairs, let alone taking in disciples. Those great emperors who could not make breakthroughs at the moment were bored. Taking in disciples was a way of contributing to the sect. Great emperors had a special status in the sect. If they wanted to take in disciples, it was not a requirement of the sect. If they looked down on you, they wouldn't care even if you knelt in front of their door. In other words, white emblem disciples had a way to advance to yellow emblem, gold emblem, and black emblem disciples. They could advance with their strength. However, the personal disciples of great emperors didn't have a way. They couldn't work hard or risk their lives. If the great emperors didn't like them, then whatever they did would be meaningless. There were so many benefits to being a personal disciple of a great emperor. Lu Li was still a white emblem disciple, and the sect wouldn't give him too many resources, but Emperor Rui would definitely give him some. Also, people wouldn't dare to bully you in the sect. After all, Emperor Rui was behind you. Emperor Rui would definitely give Lu Li pointers. At least, he would give Lu Li a direction in cultivation so that Lu Li could take fewer detours and grow better. These were all on the surface. As a disciple of a great emperor, there were many hidden benefits. The only pity was that Emperor Rui didn't have a high status among the great emperors of the sect. Also, because he came from a poor family, he was ostracized by the other great emperors. If Emperor Rui was one of the top 10 great emperors of the sect, then Lu Li's identity would be valuable. Many patriarchs would have to be respectful to him. Anyways, Lu Li had a meteoric rise. This made many White Emblem disciples jealous and envious. After learning that Luli had just passed the fifth heaven's tribulation, even more people were jealous. Not long ago, Emperor Rui took in a disciple. Nobody was jealous because Wang Ningxue was talented and strong. Besides, she was a disciple of the Wang family. Therefore, people took it for granted. Luli had no background and he was only at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation. Inevitably, many people were not convinced. Some people wondered if Emperor Rui was blind. They were 10 times or even 100 times stronger than Luli. Why didn't he take them in? Why did he choose such a good-for-nothing? It was noisy outside, but Luli didn't know anything. He was in a coma after Emperor Rui brought him out. He was still lying by the bed. He was living in Emperor Rui's manor. As a great emperor, Emperor Rui lived in a spacious place with more than a dozen castles and dozens of servants. Luli was fed top-level healing pellets and Emperor Rui helped him in person. Luli's wounds were healed. However, he had been in a coma because of the overconsumption of his life force and soul energy. It took Luli 6 days to wake up. He sensed that his wounds were almost healed, but he still felt weak. He was lying in a luxurious castle with a maid kneeling next to him. "Young master, you are awake?" The maid stood up and asked Luli what he needed. Luli asked about it and was told that he was in Emperor Rui's castle. He waved his hand to let the maid go. He began to recall what happened. He remembered that before he passed out, Emperor Rui asked if he was willing to be Luli's apprentice. He said yes and passed out after Emperor Rui took him on a flight. Ha ha! While he was thinking, he heard a pleasant laugh coming from outside. Then, a beautiful lady came in. She was smiling. It was Wang Ningxue. Chapter 27:19. Wang Ningxue had always been cold and arrogant. On the surface, she was polite to everyone. But that was just the demeanor that disciples of noble families developed from a young age. Deep down, she was still very cold. Not everyone would open their hearts and make friends with them. She looked down on Luli from the bottom of her heart as well. It was not that Luli was the only one, but because of her high status and the fact that there were so many young men around her, average men could not catch her eye. Even when Luli made it to the semi-finals like a dark horse, she didn't pay much attention to him. From the fact that they discussed in the semi-finals, she could tell that she didn't care what Luli thought. The first time Luli was recognized by her was in the semi-finals. When they were about to lose, Luli defeated Guan Qianqiu and turned the tables. He had helped her advance, which was a great help. Naturally, she would remember Luli. Luli's performance in the finals won her recognition as well. But that was it. Now, things were different. Luli had been taken in as a protégé by Emperor Rui. That meant he was her junior brother, her biological junior brother. He was different from the other disciples of the Celestial Emperor's sect. They shared the same master and they would live together for many years. How could they be the same? Also, Guan Qianqiu was eliminated and Luli advanced. The competition was not over yet. Wang Ningxue didn't know what exactly happened, but she was sure that Luli and Guan Qianqiu had a conflict. She didn't like Guan Qianqiu. She was happy that Luli could advance. She came over as soon as Luli woke up. She wanted to ask what had happened. Women loved gossip. Guan Qianqiu was eliminated and Ruan Shiji and the others were grounded. The emperors wouldn't tell others about this. Therefore, the only way was to ask Luli. Luli didn't hide anything. He told her what happened. He didn't go into details about the battle. His divine chains of order wouldn't murmur to anyone. He gave an understatement. He said that Guan Qianqiu and the other 3 came to him, and he injured Guan Qianqiu. When Ruan Shiji was about to attack him again, Emperor Rui showed up, saved Luli and brought him here. That's strange. After Wang Ningxue heard this, she murmured, logically speaking, Master doesn't have the right to let you advance. much less directly eliminate Guan Qianqiu. That should be the result of all the judges' approval. Although Guan Qianqiu and Ruan Shiji's actions weren't right, some of the judges are definitely on good terms with the Guan clan. 4 of them were directly eliminated while you advanced. This is a bit strange. It must be because of the God sequence chains. Lu Li speculated to himself that it must be because of the divine chains of order that Lu Li could advance directly and was accepted as a legacy disciple by Emperor Rui. Those emperors recognized the divine sequence chains, but they didn't have the intention to snatch it. They only absorbed him into the Celestial Emperor sect and made the Rui Emperor accept him as a personal disciple. In other words, the group of judges probably accepted him into the Celestial Emperor sect because of the divine sequence chains. Senior sister, what kind of person is our master? Do you understand? Lu Li said all of a sudden. He wanted to know Emperor Rui's character, which would make it easier for him to contact him in the future. Lu Li could also tell if Emperor Rui would rob him of his chains of order. Those were treasures of heaven and earth. What if Emperor Rui harbored evil intentions and found a chance to kill Lu Li and take the chains off him? Our master? How should I put it? Well, he is one of the miracles in the endless ruins of gods. Wang Ningxue exclaimed with admiration, 10,000 years ago, our master was an influential figure in the endless ruins of gods. Over the past 10,000 years, our master rarely went out and deliberately kept a low profile. That is why he is not as famous and people don't pay so much attention to him. But when he goes out, mentioning the name of Emperor Rui will make the older generation sigh with emotion. Wang Ningxue was born in the Wang family. She had a complete collection of stories about Emperor Rui. Lu Li was Emperor Rui's protege. He must know something about Emperor Rui. Therefore, she told him in detail without hesitation. It took Wang Ningxue an hour to finish her story. Lu Li was relieved after he heard it. He exclaimed that Emperor Rui was an extraordinary man. Emperor Rui rose to prominence in a small dynasty in the south. He was a disciple of a branch of a small family. His aptitude was poor since he was young. His family believed that he could not be trained. Emperor Rui was an orphan. His parents died in battle when he was young. He grew up with a bedridden grandfather who was injured in his early years. His aptitude was poor. He only became a second tribulation warrior at the age of 300. Naturally, he was treated coldly in the family. But Emperor Rui did not give up. He cultivated in silence. 600 years later, he suddenly rose. He went through 3 tribulations in a row and became a 5th tribulation warrior, shocking his small dynasty. After he became famous, his family's attitude toward him changed. The family patriarch even appointed him as the young family patriarch. But Emperor Rui left his family alone. He even announced that he was leaving the family. He began to travel around. He changed his name to Rui Jian. This name became the representative of the god of slaughter. Emperor Rui would often rob the bandit legions alone. Because he had no background and resources, he could only rely on the treasures and materials he obtained from robbing the bandit legions to trade for what he needed. In 1,000 years, Emperor Rui robbed all the bandit legions of the 8 dynasties nearby. His combat strength broke through from the 5th tribulation to the 6th tribulation. However, he could no longer stay in those 8 dynasties. Some bandit legions were related to the great clans of those dynasties. Some legions were even the hidden forces of those great clans. Emperor Rui was hunted down many times and narrowly escaped death many times. Finally, he successfully escaped and went far away, disappearing without a trace. He left for 4,000 years. When he came back, he was already a quasi-thearch. Furthermore, he had a powerful killer move that could fight against ordinary great thearchs. He eliminated all his enemies but offended a great clan because of this. That clan sent over a dozen quasi-thearchs to hunt him down. This great clan was a top-notch force that was second only to the 18 sections. Emperor Rui used all kinds of schemes and tactics to kill all the quasi-thearchs. This time, he poked a hornet's nest. 3 great thearchs of this clan couldn't sit still anymore. They personally chased after Emperor Rui. Emperor Rui continued to flee. After injuring one great Tharch, he was severely injured by another great Tharch. Just as he was about to be killed, Celestial Tharch Sect's Patriarch happened to pass by. He cherished talent and came out to protect Emperor Rui, bringing him back to Celestial Tharch Sect. Emperor Rui didn't disappoint Celestial Tharch Sect's Patriarch. After 18 years in Celestial Tharch Sect, he broke through to the Tharch rank and became one of the top figures in the endless divine ruins. He was a late bloomer and didn't have any background. He relied on his own strength to rob all the bandit legions of the 8 dynasties. Later on, he used his quasi-thearch combat strength to fight against 13 great clans and annihilate them. Finally, he offended a great clan. That great clan sent 3 thearchs and even allowed Emperor Rui to kill one of them. 10,000 years ago, Emperor Rui was very famous in the endless divine ruins. However, after he came to Celestial Tharch Sect, he kept a low profile. For the past 10,000 years, he almost didn't go out and cultivated in Celestial Tharch Sect. Therefore, many people had forgotten about his illustrious reputation back then. Emperor Rui's experience is very similar to mine. Chapter 27:20. Lu Li's wounds were almost healed after 3 days of rest. Following Wang Ningxue's arrangement, he changed into clean clothes and went to a hall for the ceremony. Usually, the ceremony of apprenticeship in the Celestial Emperor Sect was grand. But Emperor Rui did not like it. Maybe he did not get along well with the other great emperors of the Celestial Emperor Sect. Wang Ningxue said that Emperor Rui told her that a simple ceremony was enough. That was what Wang Ningxue did before. She only invited a few people to be witnesses. Emperor Rui rose from a poor family. The other great emperors were from major families. The Celestial Emperor Sect was formed by some major families. After Emperor Rui joined the Celestial Emperor Sect, many families tried to rope him in. But he did not like to form clique. Therefore, he turned down all the offers. This offended many people. Emperor Heng was the only friend of Emperor Rui in the Celestial Emperor Sect. That being said, Emperor Heng was not the only one present for today's ceremony. There was also an old man in a black robe. Wang Ningxue came with Lu Li. She was surprised to see the old man in a black robe. She was born in the Wang family. Naturally, she knew everything about the Celestial Emperor Sect. She knew this old man in a black robe very well. His name was Li Yang. He was the supervisor of the Celestial Emperor Sect. He was not supervising disciples, but the entire Celestial Emperor Sect, including the patriarchs. He was one of the top 10 most important figures in the Celestial Emperor Sect. He never recognized anyone and only answered to the master. His nickname was Heli. If a patriarch made a mistake, he had the right to punish them directly. Why did he come to such a small ceremony? Was it a coincidence? Lu Li did not know this man. He followed Wang Ningxue in and bowed to the 3 with her. Emperor Rui said with a smile, "Ningxue, Lu Li, let me introduce you. This is Supervisor Li and this is Emperor Heng. Come and greet them." "Greetings, Supervisor Li, Emperor Heng." Lu Li and Wang Ningxue greeted at once. Supervisor Li nodded and said, "It's okay. I am here to witness the ceremony. Don't mind me." Emperor Heng looked at Lu Li with a smile and said, "Lu Li, Lord Li has never attended a ceremony. You are the first. This is your honor. After taking the Rui Emperor as your master, I hope that you will cultivate hard and not lose face for your master." "I will remember Emperor Heng's words, and I will not disgrace you," Lu Li answered. Wang Ningxue walked over and stood beside the Rui Emperor. There was a maid serving tea at the side. Wang Ningxue said, "Junior Marshal Brother Lu, kowtow to master." Lu Li kowtowed 3 times with respect. Wang Ningxue handed a cup of tea to Lu Li in person. Lu Li served him tea. Emperor Rui took it over and took a sip. He nodded and said, "Lu Li, from today on, you are my apprentice. I don't have many rules, just 2. Firstly, they were not allowed to bully the weak and slaughter civilians. Secondly, they were not allowed to lose their humanity and commit crimes. If you break any of them, don't blame me for being merciless." Lu Li bowed with respect and said, "Master, don't worry. I will follow your instructions." "You have a sovereign weapon." The Rui Emperor thought about it and said, "Your corporeal body is also strong. You will also have to continue cultivating your corporeal body in the future, so I won't give you the battle armor. You are good at soul attacks, so I don't know what to give you as a gift." Lu Li waved his hand and said, "There is no need. Master, you have already thought highly of me by accepting me as your apprentice. How can I accept a gift from you? As for a gift, it should be a gift from me to show my respect to you." "Ha ha ha." Emperor Hung laughed and said, "Lu Li, you have underestimated your master. He is a warrior of the great emperor realm. How many roving bandits did he defeat? He went to many places of treasures. The number of treasures he has is astonishing. It is only right that a master should give his apprentice a gift." Emperor Rui thought for a while. A green bead appeared in his hand. Handing it to Lu Li, he said, "This is something I got from the Land of Silence. I don't need it anymore, so I will give it to you as a gift." "Thank you, master." Lu Li took it over. He took a look but didn't pay much attention to it. He put it away. Emperor Heng forced a smile and said, "Lu Li, do you think this bead is a piece of cabbage? This is Holy Soul Bead, a piece of treasure for the soul. After you consume it, it will be placed in your soul. It can strengthen your soul automatically, and the speed of improvement can be compared to when you consume top-level elixirs continuously. This bead is not a sovereign weapon, but it is much more valuable." "What?" Lu Li just took it over and didn't take a close look. He didn't know that the Holy Soul Bead was so powerful. He needed it badly because his soul was not strong. Also, his soul attacks were good. When his soul was strong, his soul attacks would be more effective. For him, this bead was the best treasure. "Master, you are biased." Wang Ningxue pouted and said in a half-joking manner, "This bead is more valuable than the one you gave me." "Ha ha." Emperor Rui said with a smile, "You have a 9th rank enchanted soul in your soul. This bead is of little use to you. Besides, your soul is strong. Lu Li needs it more than you do." Lord Li stood up and said, "Okay, the ceremony is over. I will leave now. Lu Li, work hard. Don't waste our efforts." Lu Li said yes. Emperor Hung left with Lord Li. Emperor Rui waved his hand and Wang Ningxue left as well. Only Lu Li and Emperor Rui were left in the main hall. Emperor Rui took a sip of tea and said, "It is Lord Li who decided your advancement. He said in person that you can advance directly. Lord Li values you, Lu Li." Lu Li didn't know about Lord Li's status in the Celestial Emperor sect. But judging from how people treated him with respect, Lu Li knew that Lord Li was an important figure in the Celestial Emperor sect. Lu Li felt flattered. "But don't be complacent." The Rui Emperor said, "Lord Li values you so much because you have the God Order chains. If these God Order chains hadn't fused with you, I reckon that Lord Li would have forcefully stripped them off and bestowed them to the emperors in the sect. Therefore, Lord Li does not value your talent, but the divine chains of order." Lu Li was surprised. Then, he put his mind at ease. The divine chains of order were integrated with him, and could not be taken off. In the future, the powerful warriors of the Celestial Emperor sect would not have any ill intentions towards him. He didn't have to worry about being assassinated. The divine chains of order are good stuff. Emperor Rui continued, but your own abilities are the key. Your realm is low and you have learned many things. Didn't any Emperor-level powerhouses teach you before? Did they ever give you any systematic advice? Lu Li shook his head. He only met an unnamed demon emperor, but they parted in a hurry. Lu Li didn't give Emperor Rui many pointers. Emperor Rui thought about it and said after a moment, I have observed your fights and I know you well in all aspects. I will give you 2 pieces of advice. One is to continue to cultivate your body to the extreme. The other is to cultivate your soul. Focus on your body and soul. The other way is to cultivate fundamental principle. I can take you to a secret realm where there are some super marks of fundamental principle. If you can comprehend it, your true meaning will immediately improve. Well, if you want to cultivate your body, I can take you to a place with treasures. As long as you can stay there for 10 years, I can promise you that when you come out, not even the average emperors can kill you. 10 years. Chapter 27-21. In the past, many people told Lu Li not to cultivate the supreme immortal body because there were too few people in history who succeeded in cultivating the supreme immortal body. The main reason was that at the later stage of the supreme body, it was too difficult to make progress. Consuming regular elixirs would have no effect. That required the most top-grade divine medicine, as well as finding all sorts of strange places or rare divine items of the world to allow the fleshly body to continue growing rapidly. The third heaven had many such strange places and many treasures. That being said, those places were scattered all over the place and were far away from each other. Many places were dangerous as well. When the treasures appeared, they would usually be divided up by nearby forces. Lu Li couldn't even buy them if he wanted to, let alone fight for them. Lu Li had been cultivating his body and soul. He had made some achievements in these 2 aspects. If he had the chance, he would want to continue to develop them. If he were to cultivate fundamental meanings, even if he were to learn some powerful ones, he would only be able to fight against the 5th tribulation, which was nothing compared to physical and soul attacks. More importantly, the Rui Emperor said that 10 years of cultivation could make him unkillable for average quasi-emperors. Then, his body must be at least 100 times stronger. With a bit more progress, he could be comparable to an Emperor Realm warrior. He might even be able to reach the Emperor Realm with his body. 10 years was a short time for Lu Li. If his body could be comparable to a quasi-emperor's, then he would be famous in the endless ruins of divinity. At least, he would be a Black Badge disciple. By then, he could go to the Holy Maiden sect to ask for Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong's hand. Therefore, Lu Li chose the first option without any hesitation. He was determined. The Rui Emperor looked at him and sighed. There is a pond of ancestral dragon blood in that treasured land. It is the blood of the ancestors of the dragons in the endless ruins of divinity. The blood of ancestral dragon is very strong. I couldn't even survive 3 years in there. Even so, my body has been improved. Are you sure you want to go? That kind of pain can drive people crazy. Yes. Lu Li did not hesitate. To cultivate the body was to endure endless torment and pain. He had been through it so many times that he was used to it. Okay then. The Rui Emperor nodded. I'll bring you there half a year later. That place is quite a distance away from the sect, and I still have some matters to attend to. In terms of the soul, I've given you the sacred soul pearl, and the sect will also give you some soul-nourishing pills. I'll also teach you a secret technique to cultivate the soul. As for the rest, I'm not proficient in the soul, so I can't help you much. Thank you, Master. Lu Li thanked Emperor Rui again. Emperor Rui had done so much for him, which was a great favor. Yet, Emperor Rui said that he could not help much. Lu Li was grateful. You shouldn't be able to completely control those god sequence chains, right? The Rui Emperor thought of something else and said, I don't know much about this thing, but I've looked through some ancient records. This divine object of heaven and earth is very domineering, so you have to hurry and refine it. After completely refining and mastering it, it will increase your battle prowess by a lot. This divine item's attack power is much more tyrannical than sovereign weapons. There are also some strange functions. You'll have to figure it out yourself. I understand, Master. Luli nodded. Since he had released the divine chains of order once, he could find a way to do it again. Then, he could take control of them slowly. Okay. Off you go. The Rue Emperor waved his hand and said, later, ask your sister to introduce you to the disciples of the sect. You can go to the Celestial Emperor City as well. This is a formal introduction. As a new disciple, you have to make public appearances. But these social activities are not very meaningful. Don't take part in too many. Also, if some families want to rope you in, don't say yes, at least for now. If you want to join some families, you have to wait until you are stronger. How could Luli join a family? He had made up his mind to find a way back to the third heaven as soon as he rescued Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. Without any hesitation, Luli said, Master, I will not join any family. I don't like these social activities. Don't worry. Okay. The Rue Emperor waved his hand with satisfaction. Luli left. Wang Ningxue was waiting outside the door. She waved her hand when Luli came out and said, Let's go, brother. I will show you to the Hall of Patriarchs to go through the formalities. Official disciples must go and report. Thank you, sister. Luli knew nothing about these things. He followed Wang Ningxue to the Hall of Patriarchs. They met some disciples on the way, and Wang Ningxue bowed to them with respect. She told Luli that if he met a disciple of the White Badge, he only needed to bow to them. If he met a disciple of the Golden Badge or a Black Badge, he must bow to them with respect. If he met a patriarch or a warrior of the Emperor realm, he must bow to them as a disciple. All the disciples they met along the way were disciples of the White Badge. They would bow back as well. But the way they looked at Luli was a bit complicated. There was envy, jealousy, and some hidden disdain. They arrived at the Hall of Patriarchs and entered a castle. There was a patriarch here. Seeing Wang Ningxue, he said with a smile, Xue, how come you have time to visit me today? This patriarch clearly had some connection with the Wang family. He was polite to Wang Ningxue. Wang Ningxue pointed to Luli and said, Patriarch Song, this is Luli. He is my master's new disciple and an official disciple. I brought him here to go through the formalities. So, you are Luli. The smile on Patriarch Song's face was still there. He asked Luli to sit down. Patriarch Song called over a man and said something. Soon, the man came back with an interspatial ring. Patriarch Song said, Luli, congratulations on becoming an official disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect. There is your ID badge and the pellets and relics the sect has given you. Also, there is a booklet. Every year, you can go to some treasured lands to cultivate. It is written clearly in the booklet. Luli took it over and thanked Patriarch Song. Patriarch Song said, Luli, Lordly picked you to join the Celestial Emperor sect in person. Also, you are a protege of Emperor Rui. I hope you will work hard and don't embarrass them. Wang Ningxue left with Luli after being told what to do. Then, she showed him around the sect and told him about some special places in the sect. For example, where was the drill ground? Where was the cultivation pond? Where was the sutra library? The chamber of elixirs and some basic knowledge of the rules of the sect. No wonder the Celestial Emperor sect was the most powerful sect in the world. It was so spacious that Luli felt dizzy. According to Wang Ningxue, there were several treasured lands where the disciples could cultivate divine energy tens of thousands of times faster than outside. But disciples of the White Badge could only go there for 1 month a year. In some lands, there were steals and marks left by powerful warriors. In some lands, there were ponds of divine liquid where one could soak in the ponds to improve one's physical strength. The Celestial Emperor sect had existed for millions of years. Thanks to the efforts of generations of powerful warriors, there were more than 10,000 lands of treasured lands in the Celestial Emperor universe. Those lands could benefit generations of disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect. That was why the Celestial Emperor sect could prosper. Brother. Chapter 27-22. Luli was not interested in the Celestial Emperor sect because he didn't want to stay here any longer. He had no sense of belonging in the endless ruins. Of all the valuable places in the Celestial Emperor sect, the one he was most interested in was the Library of Texts because there might be information about the third heaven. Of course, he had just become a disciple of the sect, so he could not go to the Library of Texts right away. When he returned to the Rui Fort, Wang Ningxue told him that there would be a banquet organized by her to celebrate Luli becoming a disciple of the sect. Hu Simring and the others would be there. Luli agreed readily. Wang Ningxue had prepared a banquet especially for him. He didn't like this kind of thing, but he would not embarrass Wang Ningxue. Back in his room, Luli didn't cultivate. Instead, he began to observe the divine chains of order. He used the divine chains by chance. He was still confused and didn't know how he could control them back then. He recalled that he was badly injured and his life force was consumed. The divine chains of order automatically protected him and helped him recover his life force and wounds. He felt there was some simple spiritual connection with the divine chains of order. Out of instinct, he controlled the divine chains of order to attack. As it turned out, the divine chains of order really did it. He wanted to mobilize the divine chains of order, but he couldn't. He stayed in his room for a couple of hours and tried many ways, but the divine chains of order didn't do anything. Do I have to blow myself up before I can mobilize the divine chains of order? Luli frowned. He was troubled. While he was wondering what to do, the Blood Evil Sovereign said, "Don't waste your time. You are too weak. The divine chains of order will not work for you. This divine chain of order is intelligent and it will protect its master. But it doesn't mean that it will listen to your orders now." Luli touched his nose, feeling embarrassed. He asked, "Then, Lord Evil Sovereign, how powerful do I have to be for it to work for me?" "Emperor Realm." The Blood Evil Sovereign said, "At least Emperor Realm. This divine chain of order does not have intelligence, but it is intelligent. You can only control it when you reach a certain level." "I see." Luli nodded. He thought about it and asked, "Lord Evil Sovereign, Emperor Rui gave me two choices. I chose to cultivate my soul and body. Is this the right way?" "I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong." The Blood Evil Emperor said, "The 3,000 great ways can all lead to the highest level. No one can guarantee which path is correct. Since you like to walk this path, then walk it. If you follow the Rui Emperor, you'll have a lot of resources. You'll be able to go further than if you stayed at the third heaven. Actually, I personally suggest that you cultivate here for tens of thousands of years. Don't bother about the third layer of heaven. With your meager strength, you won't be able to do much even if you go back. If you can break through to the Emperor realm here, or even Saint Emperor, then you'll be of great use when you return. Tens of thousands of years." Luli touched his nose, shook his head and said, "My heart of Taoism is not stable. Not to mention Saint Emperor. Moreover, how was it possible to break through to Saint Emperor in tens of thousands of years? Although my strength is very weak, if I can return to the third heavenly layer, every bit of strength is a bit of strength. Even if I die, I will die with my clansmen. Tens of thousands of years. When I return, I'm afraid that the third heaven will become the second Devil Abyss, right? Once the demon lord of the Devil Abyss descends, who can stop him?" "Actually," the Blood Evil Emperor thought for a while and said, "you don't have to worry too much. It's not impossible for a saint emperor to exist in the third heaven. What? Lu Li's eyes were wide open. He thought he had heard it wrong. He asked, Lord Evil Emperor, are you sure? There are saint emperors in the third heaven? I have never heard of such a thing. If there are saint emperors, how come they don't come out to take charge? I don't know the details. The Blood Evil Emperor explained, but I know that some saint emperors have a kind of skill. Before they die, they can seal themselves into a deep sleep, which is to pretend to be dead. Of course, such saint emperors can only launch 1 or 2 attacks at most. I think there are many of them, at least more than a dozen. Therefore, even if 1 or 2 demon lords come from the devil abyss, the third heaven can still deal with them. As a matter of fact, I also suspect that there are living saint emperors in the third heaven. It's just that they have been hiding and are not known to the world. Pretend to be dead? This was the first time Lu Li had heard of this. Those saint emperors had existed for millions of years. How could someone seal himself for millions of years? What kind of shocking divine ability was this? Don't worry too much. The Blood Evil Emperor comforted him. When the fourth heaven and above collapsed, many powerful warriors swarmed into the third heaven. The third heaven has a strong foundation. It is not as weak as you think. Don't worry. When the real crisis breaks out, those hidden powerful warriors will come out. I can guarantee that there are at least dozens of reclusive demons at the third heaven. They are as powerful as the Reincarnation Emperor. Dozens? Lu Li was surprised again, but he was relieved. A warrior like the Blood Evil Emperor would not stoop to lying. Now that he had said so, the third heaven should be able to hold on for some time. At least, they wouldn't be defeated so quickly. Focus on cultivation and try to grow. The Blood Evil Emperor said one last thing. If you are not powerful enough, you will only be cannon fodder when you go back now. You will be of no use. If you want to go back, you must be as powerful as a quasi-emperor. If you don't, you will not be able to go back even if you can find the way. The turbulence in space is horrifying. Lu Li nodded. He was much more relieved now. It was dark outside. After a while, Wang Ningxue walked over. Lu Li followed her out of the Rue fortress. What? Seeing Wang Ningxue walking toward the teleportation formation, Lu Li asked with curiosity, We are leaving the Celestial Emperor realm. Of course. Wang Ningxue nodded and said, I don't have the guts to hold a banquet in the Celestial Emperor realm. Let's go to the Celestial City. We are official disciples, and we can go in and out of the Celestial Emperor realm at will. There are many disciples in the Celestial City. Many don't like the atmosphere in the Celestial Emperor realm. They prefer to cultivate in the Celestial City. Right, you have a small manor in the Celestial City. Master has something to deal with. Let's cultivate on our own. If you want to stay in the Celestial City, it's okay. Master will send someone to call you back if something happens. Of course, we cannot leave the Celestial City. We must report to the sect if we want to leave. Lu Li understood. The Celestial Emperor realm was coming out of the secular world. The Celestial City was entering the secular world. Many disciples had a heavy heart. They couldn't stand the suffocating atmosphere in the Celestial Emperor realm. The Celestial City was a colorful world. Young people liked lively scenes and were not steady enough. If they were forced to live an ascetic life in the Celestial Emperor realm, many of them would ruin things. Leaving the secular world was also a kind of cultivation. After experiencing the prosperity of the world, people's mentality might change. Sometimes, cultivation could advance by leaps and bounds. Blindly cultivating in closed-door cultivation could easily lead to chi deviation. Of course, if they were to be greedy for the secular world and not make any progress, the sect would not tolerate it. Lu Li believed that there must be secret supervising messengers in the Celestial City. All the disciples' performance would be monitored. Chapter 27-23. The Celestial City was the largest city in the Endless Ruins. Many industries here were controlled by the major families of the Celestial sect. Many affiliated families had properties here as well. In short, everything in the Celestial City had something to do with the Celestial sect. Otherwise, it would have been taken over. Wang Ningxue's family was not one of the major families in the Celestial sect, but one of its affiliated families. She was one of the most promising to become a core family of the Celestial sect. Wang Ningxue held a banquet for Lu Li. She didn't even have to do anything herself. She just needed to send a message. By the time Wang Ningxue and Lu Li came out, the biggest tavern in the city had been set up in a hall. Wang Ningxue had invited some people, and many others came uninvited. Lu Li's story had been spread out. Normally, nobody would pay attention to a registered disciple becoming a formal disciple. But Lu Li was different. He had become Emperor Rui's private student. The most important thing was that Lu Li was selected by Lord Li himself. When Lu Li became Master Li's disciple, Lord Li even attended the ceremony in person. Lord Li's status in the Celestial sect was so high that he could monitor the entire Celestial sect. He could control the life and death of many people and families. Lu Li had Emperor Rui as his master. If Lord Li had been Lu Li's disciple, there would have been many quasi-emperors present to present gifts to Lu Li. Even so, many people came tonight and many came with gifts. The Celestial sect had hundreds of affiliated families. Almost all of them gave gifts. Although they were not too expensive gifts, if you gave them to them, they might not be grateful. If you didn't give them, they might miss them. The gifts were not for Lu Li. They were purely for the sake of Emperor Rui and Lord Li. At first, Lu Li accepted gifts. Later on, there were so many that he asked Wang Ningxue to accept some. He was now at the banquet, introduced to many young masters and young ladies by Wang Ningxue. Wang Ningxue had only invited dozens of people, but over 100 came. The entire hall was full. Those who came were guests and Lu Li could not ask them to leave. He followed Wang Ningxue and greeted them one by one as if it was a wedding. After being busy for half the night, many of the guests left on their own accord. Lu Li was relieved. Brother Lu. Hu Shimeng came over with 2 jars of wine. How is it? How does it feel to be the center of attention? Lu Li smiled bitterly. It wasn't like he hadn't become famous before. Although he didn't like these banquets, he had experienced them many times before. It was just that the person who came this time was much stronger and had a much higher status, so he didn't feel anything. Brother Hu? Lu Li shook his head and said, "Don't make fun of me. I'm getting dizzy." "You'll get used to it." Hu Shimeng handed a jug of wine to Lu Li, clinked it, took a sip and said, "This is the reality. Even though you don't want to, sometimes you cannot avoid the ways of the world. Unless you really cut off all ties with the mortal world and focus on the Tao, you can ignore everyone. If humans still have 7 emotions and 6 desires, then you have to deal with the matters of the mortal world." Yeah. Lu Li took a sip. Hu Shimeng threw him a ring and said, "I don't have much to give you. Here are some elixirs of the soul. Congratulations on becoming Emperor Rui's private student." "Don't." Lu Li hurriedly waved his hand and said, "You have become an official disciple, and I have not given you anything. How can I accept this? You are looking down on me, aren't you?" Hu Shimeng glared at Lu Li and said, "Hu family is not one of the top families, but we do have some elixirs. When you are stronger, you can help me when I need it. That will be a great deal for us. This is not a gift. This is an investment. Do you understand?" Ha ha ha. Hu Shimeng was straightforward and Lu Li liked him. Lu Li didn't want to be pretentious. He did need elixirs of the soul. Now that he had decided to cultivate his body and soul, the more powerful his soul was, the more powerful his attacks would be. Wang Ningxue took out a ring with a smile and said, "Brother, I want to show my appreciation as well. I have some elixirs as well." They will help you with your cultivation. Thank you, sister. Luli didn't want to be pretentious. After all, they were the closest of kin. The Wang family was a prosperous family. Some elixirs were nothing. Wang Ningxue was nice to him. If he could, he would help the Wang family in the future. The banquet ended in the middle of the night. Wang Ningxue had someone send Luli back to his yard in the Celestial City. There were 2 maids there. Wang Ningxue sent someone to deliver the gifts Luli had received. Luli sorted it out and realized that the gifts were worth at least 1 trillion divine stones. The Celestial sect and the other families are so rich, Luli exclaimed. Most of the gifts were targeted. They were elixirs that could help with the cultivation of the body or soul. Clearly, his information had been exposed and all the families had investigated him. When Luli looked at the list of gifts, he saw some from the relevant families. There was a note saying that the family apologized to Luli on behalf of Guan Qianqiu. The gifts were expensive. These big families are really flexible, Luli exclaimed. He had learned about Guan Qianqiu's situation. After he was eliminated, Guan Qianqiu stayed in the Celestial City for several days. When he recovered, he was sent back to his family. According to Wang Ningxue's speculation, Guan Qianqiu was going to suffer a setback this time. His status in the family would plummet. If he could not pull himself together, he would never achieve anything great in his lifetime. It was understandable that the Guan family would give him gift. Guan Qianqiu was taken in as a protege of Emperor Rui and was valued by Lord Li. He might not be a threat to the Guan family now, but what about in thousands or tens of thousands of years? What if Luli could rise up and reach the Emperor realm? Step by step, he could become one of the most powerful warriors in the Celestial sect. By then, Luli would remember what happened to Guan Qianqiu, which could be a devastating blow to the Guan family. Therefore, by giving him some gifts and expressing his apology, he could at least ease their relationship. Luli closed his door and refused to receive guests. He lived in the Lu mansion that he named himself. He began to consume the Holy Soul bead. After refining this bead, it would be able to continuously assist in the growth of the soul. In addition, the Rui Emperor had also given him a secret manual, which was a secret art for cultivating the soul. Later on, many people sent invitations to invite him to dinner. However, Luli told the servants to reply that he was in closed-door cultivation and would not attend any banquets. Half a month later, the Holy Soul bead was finally consumed. The bead entered his soul directly, emitting a faint green glow that helped his soul grow automatically. This is a piece of treasure. Luli sensed that the growth of his soul was faster than consuming regular elixirs. The bead was running all the time. His soul was growing every second. Over a long period of time, the growth of his soul would be considerable. 10 years. Luli's eyes glowed. Emperor Rui would take him to the blood pond of ancestor dragons soon. He would cultivate there for 10 years. He believed that after 10 years, his abilities would soar again. By then, he could find a chance to go to the Holy Lady sect to propose marriage and bring back Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. P.S. New work by Flying Fish, Legend of Celestial Emperor. The main character, Lin Ke, was one of the top 10 powerful warriors of the Xian realm sect. He was one step away from becoming a perfected being and gaining immortality. However, his master, perfected being Yi, branded him with the number 9 on his face and demoted him to the lowest rank. Chapter 27-24. In the days that followed, Luli went to the Celestial Emperor universe and returned to the Rui castle to cultivate since there were too many invitations in the Celestial Emperor city. Emperor Rui gave him a book on soul cultivation. The earlier he learned it, the earlier he could cultivate his soul. Luli knew a secret skill on soul cultivation, but it was not as good as what Emperor Rui gave him. Emperor Rui had to leave the Celestial Emperor universe for half a year. Wang Ningxue lived in the Celestial Emperor city. Lu Li had a comfortable life in the Rui castle. 2 months later, Wang Ningxue came back. The sect assessment was over. She brought with her the list of qualified disciples. He was the only one who made it. The others were all eliminated. Being eliminated meant that they had no chance with the Celestial Emperor sect. They would have to go back to the recruitment ceremony and fight again. 3 of the white badge disciples made it to the yellow badge: Lu Yun, Chu Yan, and Tian Feng. Lu Li's eyes turned cold when he saw Chu Yan's name. Wang Ningxue sensed it and asked, "What? You know Brother Chu?" "We had a small dispute." Lu Li told her about his conflict with Chu Yan. Wang Ningxue frowned and said with embarrassment, "If it were someone else, it would be fine. Chu Yan didn't make it to the next rank. But now it is troublesome. Chu family is one of the affiliated families of the Celestial Emperor sect. They have a warrior of the Great Emperor realm in the Celestial Emperor sect. More importantly, he has become a disciple of Huang Huizhong. Our family has never been on good terms with his family. I don't think it will be easy to mediate." "No need." Lu Li waved his hand. "We are all disciples of the sect. He won't dare to mess around. If I don't take the initiative, he won't kill me in broad daylight. That's the only way." Wang Ningxue said, "Chu Yan is a violent person. He will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. I think something big will happen sooner or later. Just stay away from him. He won't do anything in the sect. Don't give him a chance." "Brother, do you know?" Wang Ningxue's eyes were filled with admiration as she said, "Another major event happened during the assessment. Our senior brother Gu Jian passed the 18th stage in the Celestial Dharch sword formation and was promoted from a yellow emblem disciple to a black emblem disciple. Senior brother Gu is too incredible. I think he will break through to the Quasi-Emperor realm very soon. I'm afraid he is one of the most outstanding disciples of our Heavenly Emperor sect in the past 10,000 years." Examination? Huang Huizhong's disciple? Heavenly Dharch sword formation? Lu Li frowned and asked in confusion, "We only had disciples with white badges during the assessment. There was no Emperor sword formation anywhere." "That's a low-level test." Wang Ningxue explained, "The assessment for yellow and gold emblem disciples is done elsewhere. There are 3 places. The first is the Celestial Dharch sword formation. If you can pass 10 rounds, you will become a gold emblem disciple. If you can pass 15 rounds, you will be promoted to a black emblem disciple. If you can clear the Celestial Dharch sword formation and clear the 20th level, you can directly become an elder." "I didn't know there was such a place." Lu Li had never heard of it. He was curious. "Is the Heaven Emperor's sword formation terrifying?" "Yes." Wang Ningxue nodded solemnly. "If I went, I wouldn't be able to pass 5 rounds. Senior brother Gu is the best. He is only 200 years older than me." Speaking of Gu Jian, Wang Ningxue's eyes glowed. Lu Li smiled gently and said, "Sister, it seems that you admire our brother Gu very much. Brother Gu must be a dashing and elegant man. He must be a god's chosen one." "Of course not." Wang Ningxue could tell that Lu Li was teasing her. She blushed and said, "But senior brother Gu is really good. He is ranked 36th on the master ranking. I think he will be in the top 10 after this news gets out." "What is the master ranking?" Lu Li asked. "A ranking of the young powerhouses." Wang Ningxue explained, "It is a ranking that includes all the young talents in the Endless Ruins. Only those under 3,000 years old can enter the ranking. It is fair and just. The number 1 is senior brother Mo and I of our Heavenly Emperor sect. Unfortunately, he has been in closed-door cultivation recently and I haven't seen him. The number 2 is the Saintess of the Holy Lady sect. Both of them are halfway to the Emperor realm. Oh, back in the days, our master was also on the master ranking. He was ranked 3rd. Junior brother, we must all work hard and try to enter the master ranking. By then, the sect will reward us. Saintess of the Holy Lady sect. Luli didn't care about the master ranking, but the mention of the Holy Lady sect made his eyes turn cold. He didn't like the Holy Lady sect at all. He thought about it and said, "Senior sister, can I ask you a favor? Help me find out 2 people. Who are you looking for?" Wang Ningxue asked casually. "The dragon rebel antelope and the exquisite elephant," Luli said. "They were taken to the Holy Lady sect by force. If you can't find the dragon rebel antelope, look into Lu Ling. Both of them are very young, about the same age as me." "That's easy. Our family has investigated the Holy Lady sect." Wang Ningxue nodded and said, "The 2 girls are from the Holy Lady sect? Junior brother, how are you related to them?" "They are my good friends," Luli said. "They were taken away by force by the Holy Lady sect. I hope you can keep this a secret for me." "Okay. I will go back and make arrangements." Wang Ningxue nodded and left. Luli continued to cultivate soul-refining skill. The skill was abstruse. The more abstruse it was, the more powerful it would be. If it could be learned easily, then the skill would be useless. 2 months later, Wang Ningxue came back with news of Lu Ling and Exquisite Elephant. They were at the Holy Lady sect, and they were still external disciples. They were valued by the Holy Lady sect, and they were being trained with great focus. Luli thought about it and asked Wang Ningxue to find a way to tell them that he was at the Heaven Emperor sect. In this way they wouldn't worry about him and ask for his information. Another month passed and Luli finally succeeded in cultivating soul-refining skill. He cultivated for a while and realized that soul-refining skill was indeed powerful. After he started to cultivate this skill, his soul was growing rapidly. Luli didn't slack off during these months. He had been consuming soul-nurturing pellet. He believed that with the help of the soul fixation bead and soul-refining skill, his soul would improve rapidly. The strength of his soul was similar to that of an average 5th tribulation warrior. He was confident that in 10 years, he could reach the Lord Realm. Of the several soul skills he cultivated, the law of sound and soul of wind were strong in themselves. But his soul was not strong, so the power they could release was limited. If his soul could be improved, his soul attacks would be horrifying. As a matter of fact, soul attacks were not an easy path. Powerful warriors and young masters from wealthy families all had super-enchanted souls to protect them. They were immune to average soul attacks. Luli still had a long way to go before he could become a powerful soul warrior. Another 2 months passed. Rui Emperor came back. Luli and Wang Ningxue went to greet him at once. Rui Emperor was delighted to learn that Luli had been cultivating at the Heaven Emperor universe and barely attended any banquets. The Holy Soul Bead was even more satisfied to know that Luli had also successfully cultivated the soul cultivation skill. Chapter 27-25. The Pond of Ancestral Dragon was not in the Celestial Emperor sect, but in the Celestial Emperor dynasty. Not many people knew about this secret area. It was Emperor Rui and Emperor Huang who discovered it. It was not listed as a treasure of the Celestial Emperor sect. Emperor Rui and Luli opened the spatial gate and teleported over. Emperor Rui did not tell others. After all, Luli was cultivating alone. If someone tried to assassinate him, it would be troublesome. Emperor Rui could not stay here for 10 years. It was better for him to cultivate in secret. When Luli came out from the spatial gate, he noticed that the surroundings were foul and filled with dark fog. He looked around and said, "Master, this is a dangerous place, right?" "Yes." Emperor Rui took Luli with one hand and flew forward while explaining, "This used to be the place where an old demon lived in seclusion. He was good at using poisons. Nobody dared to come close within a radius of 3,000 miles. More than 1,000 years ago, Emperor Huang and I were ordered to kill this demon. After we killed him, we found that secret area. We wanted to take away the blood of the ancestral dragon, but it was too strong. We could not collect it, so we had to leave it here." Luli glanced around. Many places were covered in green. He was afraid that they were poisonous. With Emperor Rue, he did not have to worry about this. With a wave of his hand, the green fog was dispersed. Luli and Emperor Rue flew into a cave in the mountains. The cave was filled with poisonous fog. Emperor Rue had no other choice but to build a shield to isolate the fog. They moved forward and entered the deepest part of the cave. There was a dark entrance. Emperor Rue and Luli dashed in. After a white glare, Luli felt he had come to an old world. Everything in this world was ancient. Even the trees seemed to be hundreds of thousands of years old. They were withered and seemed to be ancient as well. It was not very bright here. There was something frightening about everywhere. Luli looked around. Soon, he was attracted by a huge piece of bone. The bone was crystal clear and emitting divine energy. There used to be some bone dragons guarding here. But Emperor Heng and I smashed them. The Rue Emperor thought about it and warned, "Don't run around this place. There are many dangerous places with some ancient divine markings. Just stay in the ancestral dragon blood pool. If you can't take it anymore, come up and take a rest. After you're unable to absorb the ancestral dragon's blood, crush the jade talisman and I'll come to take you back." "Thank you, Master." Luli cupped his fists and said gratefully. Emperor Rue was being too kind to him. This was a one-sided effort without asking for anything in return. Luli could not repay this kindness now and could only keep it in mind. "Let's go." Emperor Rue took Luli with him and flew for tens of thousands of miles. Luli saw many skeletons. Every bone was like a relic weapon, emitting a horrifying energy. He even saw many divine imprints. As expected of ancient divine imprints, they were extremely profound. Hee. Luli was delighted. This place was a holy land for Blood Fairy. If Blood Fairy were to spend a few more years here, her comprehension of divine inscriptions would surely improve tremendously, right? Another thousands of miles later, Luli's blood suddenly became restless. He sensed a surge of powerful qi and energy, which made him feel suffocated and suffocated. Luli's eyes glowed. The ancestral dragon blood pool must be right ahead. How strong must the ancestral dragon blood pool be? Luli's desire grew. The ancestral dragon blood pool must be a treasure that could elevate his abilities. It's right ahead. Emperor Rue landed on a mountain with Luli. Pointing to a valley in the mountains, he said, "Try to sense it and get used to it. Later, we will go down and see if you can stand it." Luli's blood was boiling. His eyes were filled with excitement as he stared at a small pond in the valley. The pond was not large, only with a radius of 1,000 feet. The pond was filled with brown blood. But there were divine patterns on the pond. It must have been Emperor Rue and Emperor Heng who sealed it. How could the pond still have such strong energy when it was sealed? Once the seal was undone, would the blood pressure cause his blood vessels to explode? Luli walked toward the pond slowly. Emperor Rue didn't come down. He stood on the peak. When Luli walked to the edge of the blood pond, his blood was boiling. His heart was filled with desire. He wanted to rush into the pond. Just to be on the safe side, Luli used the Dragon Entanglement skill and the Heaven Armor skill. He took a few breaths and nodded to Emperor Rue on the peak. The Rue Emperor released a ray of light. The divine glyph disappeared and a surge of energy spread out. Luli felt he was on fire. The energy rushed into his pores, making his blood run amok in his body. His blood vessels almost burst. Dragon energy! Luli looked down. He saw some currents of dragon energy moving in the blood. The blood was horrifying. At the moment, he even had the idea of retreating. He sensed danger. Go in slowly. If you cannot stand it, get out at once. Emperor Rue's voice came. Luli took several deep breaths and then walked toward the blood pond slowly. The moment he fell into the blood pond, his eyes reddened and he trembled. He fell and rolled around in the blood pond. Some of the blood in the pond seeped into his body through his pores. The blood spread to every part of his body. Luli felt he was on fire. This was even more powerful than flames. Flames were only burning the surface, but the blood was burning his entire body. Luli had gone through many pains and tribulations in his life, but this was the most unforgettable. At the moment, not only was his body burning, but his soul was as well. The pain was excruciating. If it were not for the fact that he had a strong ability to endure pain, he would have collapsed in an instant and his soul would have collapsed. Not bad. You are better than me at enduring pain. Emperor Rui had been observing from above. He was relieved to see that Lu Li's soul showed no signs of collapse. Back in the days, Emperor Rui and Emperor Heng had been in there for several years. In the end, they could not take it anymore and left. The two were not cultivators of physical strength. It was unnecessary for them to suffer here. Lu Li, this is only the first wave. Hang in there. Emperor Rui said to Lu Li, there will be more dragon energy entering your body. As long as you can stand it, you can continue to cultivate here. Lu Li had gotten used to it. The pain was still intense, torturing his soul all the time, making him wish he was dead. But he endured it. As long as he could stand it at the beginning, he would be fine later on. Hearing Emperor Rui's words, Lu Li felt bitter. This was only the first wave. Would the second one be more horrifying? Could he stand it? Not long afterward, as more blood entered Lu Li's body, a stream of air in the shape of a dragon entered Lu Li's body. At that moment, Lu Li felt he was about to explode. The energy of the dragon energy was horrifying. He felt he had become an inflated balloon that could explode at any moment. Swell. This was the most painful and unbearable feeling. It could make one wish for death. The thing was, there was nothing Lu Li could do except to endure it. When Lu Li was about to lose his mind, the shadow of the dragon finally snuck out from Lu Li's body. Lu Li felt like he had gone from hell to heaven. Even the burning pain all over his body seemed insignificant. Okay. Chapter 27-26. Lu Li's physical strength was beyond Emperor Rui's imagination. Emperor Rui was surprised by Lu Li's ability to endure pain. The ancestral dragon blood had 2 waves of pain. If he could withstand both, then at least his life would not be in danger. It all depended on how long Lu Li could cultivate here and how much blood of ancestor dragon he could absorb. Absorbing the ancestral dragon blood here would not reduce the pain due to the strengthening of the physical body. As long as one absorbed a little, the physical body would suffer extreme pain. The most unbearable thing was the dragon energy entering one's body. The swelling pain was the most maddening. It felt as though one's body was about to explode. Back then, Emperor Rui and Emperor Heng cultivated here for 3 years. In the end, both of them gave up because both of them had powerful defensive divine art. It didn't matter whether their corporeal bodies were strong or not. Even if the two of them improved their physical bodies, it would not be of much use. It was far from being as powerful as their defensive divine abilities. Therefore, the two of them did not continue to cultivate and left after 3 years. As there were no other treasures here other than the ancestral dragon blood pool, the two of them did not report it to the sect. He told Lu Li 10 years, but in his mind, it would be impressive if Lu Li could hold on for 5 years. After all, enduring the pain for a long time would lead to a mental breakdown. Also, after 5 years of absorbing the blood of the ancestor dragon, Lu Li's body should be growing slower. After all, the stronger the body was, the slower the growth would be. He was looking forward to seeing when Lu Li would stop cultivating. This place was safe and not many knew about it. Apart from Emperor Heng, only Lord Li knew. Emperor Rui was not worried about Lu Li's safety. It was all poisonous fog outside and nobody had come in. It was unlikely that Luli would be discovered. Emperor Rui left, but Luli had no time to think about Emperor Rui because his physical body was in too much pain. Most importantly, there was a lot of energy in his body. If he didn't absorb it, he might explode and die. When the dragon blood entered the body, it itself was a very powerful energy. After the dragon energy entered, it also left behind a very powerful energy. He now had two choices. The first was to leave the ancestral dragon blood pool and absorb the energy. The second was to absorb it in the blood pool. He chose the second option because he wanted to see if he could enter the state of cultivation, which would make it less painful for him. He tried to enter the dreamland state. That way, he could completely forget about the outside world. It was obvious that he had failed. If the Rui Emperor and the others couldn't do it, he definitely couldn't do it either. The pain that came from his soul kept interrupting his meditation. He could only forcefully activate the marks of the Great Tao to see if he could absorb the energy in his body into his meridians. No, after a while, he gave up. The pain in his body was too intense, and he couldn't concentrate at all. He had no choice but to soar into the sky and rush out of the pool. He sat cross-legged and forcefully activated the Great Tao mark. This time, he succeeded. The energy within his body was continuously absorbed into his meridians. Such powerful energy! Luli could feel clearly that his body was growing stronger, and at a fast pace. One had to know that his physical body was already comparable to a mid-stage sixth tribulation expert. The fact that he could still have such a huge improvement was enough to show how powerful the ancestral dragon's blood was. Right, Blood Fairy? When the pain subsided, Luli told Blood Fairy to go around and study the divine glyph. He told Blood Fairy not to go too far. She had to at least maintain a weak mental connection. Otherwise, it would be difficult to find her. After all, this world seemed to be very big. After Blood Fairy left, Luli continued to consume energy. As the energy was refined, the pain in his body began to weaken. After 6 hours, all the energy was absorbed. What? Luli sensed that the remaining energy in his soul was being absorbed by the dragon soul. The dragon soul was very excited. Just now, Luli was in so much pain that he did not have the time to pay attention to other things. Only now did he notice that the dragon's soul was happily moving around in his soul and consuming all the energy. The dragon's soul was not satisfied. It kept moving around in Luli's soul, which made Luli speechless. Blood of ancestral dragon? The ancestor of all dragons? Is it helpful to the dragon's soul? Luli was excited. He believed that the dragon's soul should be of the 8th rank. If it could evolve to the 9th rank after absorbing some blood of ancestral dragon, it would be a great deal. 9th rank enchanted souls were rare. Even young masters did not have one. Guan Qianxiu, for example, did not have one. Otherwise, Luli would not have been able to trap his soul. Go on. Luli dashed into the blood pool. Once again, he began to roll around in the pool. It was as if there was a ferocious dragon moving around in the pool. The qi and blood around him were strange. If someone happened to pass by, they would be frightened. This time, Luli stayed in the pool for an hour. Then he flew up and sat on the ground with his legs crossed. This time, it took him 10 hours to consume all the energy in his body. The dragon's soul was even more excited. The energy in Luli's body was absorbed by Luli, but the energy in his soul was devoured by the dragon's soul. This time, Luli didn't rush into the pool. Instead, he consumed some soul-nurturing pellet. After all, after he consumed the pellets, there would be energy enveloping the soul for the soul to absorb automatically. In this way, the soul could be strengthened. Also, the holy soul bead was glowing green all the time to strengthen his soul. It was a pity that Luli was suffering in the blood pool of ancestral dragon. He could not cultivate soul cultivation skill or else his soul would grow faster. Splash, splash, Luli dashed in and continued to roll around in the pool. The blood was tumbling and the dragon energy was moving around. The horrifying chi and blood covered the sky. From time to time, Luli would hear painful cries coming out from the pool. It was a horrifying scene. He cultivated like this for 3 days. All of a sudden, Luli stopped because he noticed something. The amount of blood in the pool was decreasing. It was not fast, but it was decreasing. What is going on? There was a lot of blood in the pool. But at this rate, in 5 or 6 years, the blood would be gone. How could he cultivate by then? I didn't absorb much blood. Luli was confused. There was a lot of blood in his body, but the amount was small. He crawled down in the diving area and made up his mind not to roll into the center of the blood pool. He felt like his body was on fire. Enduring the pain, Luli released psychic power to check. Soon, he noticed something. The dragon's soul was secretly absorbing blood. After Luli went into the blood pool, the dragon's soul was not satisfied with the energy in Luli's body. Its head came out from behind Luli's head and started to absorb the blood. When Luli was in the blood pool, he was in pain all over his body, including his soul. He couldn't do anything and he couldn't check. He couldn't even tell if there was an emperor nearby. Therefore, he didn't know what the dragon's soul was doing. Damn it, Luli cursed. If the dragon's soul were not his, he would kill it right away. The blood was something that could make him stronger. How could the dragon's soul secretly absorb it? In a few years the blood would be gone. How could he cultivate his body? Never mind. Luli could do nothing about the dragon's soul. After all, it was his enchanted soul. He couldn't cut off the spiritual connection with the dragon's soul. The dragon's soul had become one with his soul. What could he do? Since the dragon's soul was absorbing the blood, it must be useful. Chapter 27:27. For the next few days, Luli had a hard time. He dashed into the pond without any rest. When he could no longer stand the energy, he would go back to the shore and consume the energy. When the energy was gone, he would go back into the pond. The dragon's soul had been consuming the blood in the pond quietly. Maybe it was because it was a dragon and the blood of the ancestral dragon was beneficial to it. The dragon's soul was enjoying the blood. Luli could not control it and let it do as it pleased. The ancestral dragon realm was quiet. There was no sound, no beasts or monsters. Not a single living thing. This was Luli. Any other young man would not have been able to stay here. Blood Fairy was happy as well. There were ancient divine glyphs everywhere, powerful ones at that. Blood Fairy was not in a hurry to study them. Instead, she looked around and memorized the divine glyphs so that she could study them later. Blood Fairy was not a human being. She did not have human emotions and she did not know fatigue. The happiest thing for Blood Fairy was studying divine glyphs because that was her gift. She liked it. Time flew by. Soon, 2 years had passed. 30% of the ancestral dragon realm blood in the pond was gone. At this rate, the pond would dry up in 4 years. After 2 years, the dragon's soul showed no change. It did not evolve to a 9th rank enchanted soul. Luli's heart ached. The black sheep had consumed so much blood. It would not be a big deal if it was useful. But nothing had changed. Luli almost wanted to find a way to establish a spiritual connection with the dragon's soul. Luli had changed a lot. His physical body was at least 7 or 8 times stronger. His physical body could be comparable to a warrior at the later stage of the 6th tribulation. He no longer had to go to the shore to absorb energy. He could just stay in the blood pond. After 2 years of constant heart-wrenching pain, Luli had been tormented to the point of insanity. If it were not for the fact that he had suffered more over the years, he would have asked Emperor Rui to take him away. The cultivation of a supreme immortal body was arduous and painful. Luli was prepared for it. Moreover, after so many years of torture, he had become numb to it. His tolerance for pain was much stronger than ordinary people. I will rest for 10 days. Luli flew out from the blood pond and landed on the grass nearby. He fell into a deep sleep without a care. Right now, he didn't care if there were any dangers or not. He didn't want to set up divine inscriptions either. His body and mind were exhausted, and he only wanted to sleep and never wake up. When he was asleep, his brows were tightly furrowed and the corners of his mouth were pursed. He looked like a beggar sleeping under a bridge in the cold wind. His robe was tattered, his hair was disheveled, and his beard was unshaven. If Wang Ningxue was here, she probably wouldn't be able to recognize him. Alas, I wonder how Luli is doing now. While Luli was cultivating in the ancestral dragon realm, a sigh came from a castle on a huge mountain to the north of the boundless divine ruins. The castle was not big, but the decorations were very elegant. There were 2 women sitting inside. One of them was a woman in a white dress. Her eyes were as clear as a spring, and her pretty face was flawless. Her eyes shone with the light of knowledge and wisdom. Her hair was combed into a dignified double moon bun, making her look like a bright and beautiful lady from a noble family. The other woman was colder. It was not her expression that was cold, but the coldness in her bones. Looking from afar, she was like an ice sculpture. She was not less beautiful than the other woman, and she was more slender. The 2 of them sat facing each other. One was bright and the other was cold. Their different temperaments were pleasing to the eye. It was the cold-looking lady who spoke. She sighed and added, "The sect is forcing us to join the inner sect. If we don't, they will force us to get married. Those from the Holy Lady sect are all perverts, a bunch of crazy women." Sure, the pretty lady made a gesture and activated the rune in the castle. She said, "Linglong, don't worry about Luli. He must be living a comfortable life if he can send a message to us secretly. The Heaven Emperor sect is the most powerful sect in the world. If he can become a disciple, he will not have a hard time." That heartless guy. Xiang Linglong curled her lips and said, "He is living a carefree life on his own. I think he is surrounded by beauties over there, but he doesn't think of a way to save us." "You are wrong." Lu Ling shook her head and said, "If he can send a message, it means that he has been trying to find out about us. I believe that he went to the Heaven Emperor sect to save us. Only the Heaven Emperor sect can suppress the Holy Lady sect. Do you understand? He separated from us at the Tianyang dynasty. How far is he from the Heaven Emperor sect? Why did he go to the Heaven Emperor sect? Does he want to enjoy wealth and splendor? If that's the case, he can casually choose a dynasty or a sect, and he'll probably live a comfortable life. Alas, save us? How?" Xiang Linglong sighed. "We have the Holy Lady with us. Our lives are in the hands of the sect. The sect can kill us at any time. Either we join the inner sect or we will have to listen to their arrangements and get married. I would rather die than get married." The Holy Lady sect was divided into the inner sect and the outer sect. The inner sect disciples were the core. They were the most loyal force of the Holy Lady sect. If they became inner sect disciples, they would not be allowed to get married, and they would have to fight for the sect for the rest of their lives. The outer sect disciples could get married, but the outstanding outer sect disciples had to listen to the arrangements of the sect and form marriage alliances with other forces. The Holy Lady sect was so powerful not only because of their own strength, but also because they used marriage alliances to unite many sects and families, forming a behemoth. Everyone was bound together for good or ill. If someone attacked one of the sects, the Holy Lady sect would call the other sects to join hands. Challenging one sect was equal to challenging hundreds of sections. Which force in the endless ruins of gods would dare to touch them? The Holy Lady sect was like the moon surrounded by stars. Many forces formed an alliance around them. To maintain the relationship of the alliance and to infiltrate the alliance, The Holy Lady sect would constantly train the best disciples and form marriage alliances with the disciples of the other forces. Think about it, if the mother and wife of a master of a major sect were from the Holy Lady sect, many patriarchs would be married to the Holy Lady sect. There were also many elders who had a marriage alliance with the Saintess sect. If they wanted to leave this alliance, their mothers and wives would not agree. The Holy Lady. This was the number one in the world, and it could not be solved. Unless the upper echelons of the Holy Lady sect personally solved it for them, they would never be able to get rid of it. This was also a powerful method for the Holy Lady sect to control their disciples. If the sect wanted them dead, they could die at any time. Women were born with weaker personalities and were easier to control. Don't worry. There will always be a way. Chapter 27-28. I wonder where that bastard Luli is. At the same time, from a luxurious castle in the Celestial Sovereign came a sigh. The runes in the castle had been activated. There was no one inside except for two young men. Both of them were handsome. One of them was wearing a white robe with a blue belt around his neck. His hair was shiny and he had an extraordinary appearance. The other one was in a black robe. He looked gloomy. The table between them was filled with top-level mystical fruit. Any one of them could be sold for tens of thousands of divine stones. It was the young man in a white robe who spoke. After a pause he said, "Brother Guan, don't blame me for not helping you. Luli is like a turtle. I don't know where he is cultivating. I don't even have the chance to find him." The young man in a black robe was Guan Qianqiu. He was taken out of the Celestial Sovereign City after he was badly injured by Luli. Then, he was picked up by the Guan family. He had just arrived at the Celestial Sovereign City and had been pretending to be a grandson for 2 years. It was not until today that the family was willing to let him out. He had come to the Celestial Sovereign City with the excuse of marrying a young lady of a family. As soon as he arrived, he contacted Chu Yen and asked him to deal with Luli. Unexpectedly, Chu Yen was full of excuses. Guan Qianqiu knew very well that the conflict between Chu Yen and Luli was not deep. Luli had humiliated Chu Yen. Chu Yen had said that he would pick a fight with Luli at the sex assessment. However, Luli had advanced to the next rank. Once again, Chu Yen felt humiliated. Being humiliated was not a big deal. Luli had become Emperor Rui's protégé, and it was Lord Li who appointed him to the next rank. Naturally, Chu Yen had some concerns. The Chu family was a wealthy family and Emperor Rui was not afraid of them. That being said, they did not have the courage to go against Lord Li. "Ha ha!" Guan Qianqiu said with a smile. "Brother Chu, I will find him. How about we do it together? I can't handle Luli on my own. You can do it with your power." Chu Yen frowned. He thought about it and said, "Brother Guan, if Luli is cultivating in a place of treasure in the Celestial Sovereign Realm, I will not do anything to him no matter how bold I am. If I am caught, not only me, even the Chu family will be in trouble." "Of course," Guan Qianqiu said with certainty, "I can guarantee that Luli is not in the Celestial Emperor universe or the Celestial Emperor city. He is cultivating in a secret realm that no one knows about. When we get this information, we can do it quietly. After we kill Luli, we can erase all traces. Who will know?" This, Chu Yen fell silent. He glanced at Guan Qianqiu and said, "Old brother Guan, since you can find out where he is, why don't you go and investigate? Then why don't you find a few people in your family to kill him? Why do you need to drag me into this? Your family has a lot of experts. I can't move it." Guan Qianqiu sighed in disappointment and said, "I can find some connections to investigate Lu Li's whereabouts, but I cannot mobilize any powerful warriors of the family. This is an order from my great-grandfather. No one dares to disobey it. If you can't get it, you can hire someone." Chu Yen still did not answer. he said, "there are so many desperadoes in the black market of the heavens will pavilion. It shouldn't be difficult for you to spend some divine stones to hire some old demons, right? Could it be that you, young Master Guan, can't even afford this?" "I really can't afford it." Guan Qianxiu forced a smile and said, "My great-grandfather gave the order in person. I don't have more than 1 billion divine stones with me. I don't have the guts to borrow any. I am afraid that, if the news gets back to the family, I will be locked up for 10,000 years. I will lose my mind." Chu Yan thought about it and said, "Then, how about I lend you some divine stones? But this is your idea. It has nothing to do with me. Do you understand?" "Brother Chu, don't you want revenge?" Guan Qianxiu sneered and said, "I heard that many people in our sect are talking about you. They say that you can't keep Lu Li under control. This is a blow to your prestige." "I don't care what they say." Chu Yan's hand glowed. He handed over an interspatial ring and said, "There are 5 trillion divine stones here. I can buy over 2 or 3 lords. But you must remember that killing Lu Li has nothing to do with me. It is all your idea." "Okay." Guan Qianxiu sighed and said, "Brother Chu, I will listen to you. If anything happens, I will take responsibility. Killing Lu Li has nothing to do with you." Chu Yan nodded with satisfaction and then left. Guan Qianxiu walked Chu Yan out in person, and they went back to the castle. Buzzing. Suddenly, Guan Qianxiu took out a memory crystal and poured divine energy into it. In midair, there was an image of Chu Yan alone. It was Chu Yan taking out the interspatial ring, handing it to Guan Qianxiu and saying that it had nothing to do with him. As the young master of the Guan family, Guan Qianxiu's prestige had declined and his status in the family had plummeted. That being said, it was easy for him to borrow some divine stones. Even if he didn't, he could sell some treasures and he could get several trillion divine stones. Guan Qianxiu came to Chu Yan today for the sake of this image. He wanted to drag Chu Yan down with him. He didn't have to think twice about killing Lu Li. He had to do it so that he could wash away the shame and remove the mental barrier in his mind. If he could not remove the mental barrier, he would be doomed for the rest of his life. It would be difficult for him to make any progress. He might not even reach the quasi-emperor realm, let alone the emperor realm. He used to be the chosen one, the pride of the Guan family, the leader of the younger generation in the endless ruins of gods. In the future, he could become the most powerful warrior and dominate the entire endless ruins of gods. However, all of this had been destroyed by Lu Li. Now that he was in the family, even the branch family members looked at him differently. The elders of the family were all looking at him with disappointment, exasperated that he had not lived up to their expectations. The difference filled Guan Qianxiu's heart with hatred. If he could not kill Lu Li and cut Lu Li into pieces, how could he vent his anger and remove the mental barrier in his mind? Since he had made up his mind to seek revenge, he would try every possible means to set up a trap. He could not just go to the Celestial Emperor sect, find Lu Li and attack him directly. In that case, even if he could enter the Celestial Emperor sect and kill Lu Li, he would still be doomed and the Chu family would be implicated. Killing a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect was a serious crime. Someone had to be responsible. The Celestial Emperor sect would not allow anyone to challenge their dignity. Therefore, to kill Lu Li, someone had to die. No matter how discreet he was, the Celestial Emperor sect would eventually find out. Therefore, he made an appointment with Chu Yan and set up a trap to get this image. His goal was to make Chu Yan the main culprit and himself the accomplice. The accomplice might not die, but the principal must. As long as he killed Lu Li and was only an accomplice, the Chu family would try their best to protect him. After all, to be able to set up a trap to kill a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect and disassociate himself was a demonstration of his abilities. By then, his inner demons would be eliminated and his status in the family would be restored. He would be able to reach higher realms and return to the peak. Everything was perfect. Now it was time to find Luli. Only two people knew where Luli was, Emperor Rui and Wang Ningxue. Guan Qianxiu learned that Luli was not cultivating in the secret realm of the Celestial Emperor sect from Wang Ningxue. Guan Qianxiu had paid a great price to bribe a close friend of Wang Ningxue. Now, all he had to do was wait for that friend to find out where Luli was. Chapter 27-29. Wang Ningxue was with her best friend at the moment. She did not like the depressing atmosphere in the Celestial Emperor realm. She told Emperor Rui about this, and he said he understood. Emperor Rui gave Wang Ningxue some pointers. She was smart and the Wang family was in the Celestial Emperor city. The Wang family had powerful warriors. Emperor Rui did not worry about Wang Ningxue's cultivation. Master and disciple did not have to stay together every day. Entering the human realm was also for cultivation. Emperor Rui had many things to attend to. He held a position in the Celestial Emperor sect and was in charge of many industries. Wang Ningxue's best friend was a young lady from another family. Her name was Ji Yun. They grew up together and were close. Ji Yun knew that her best friend was shrewd and scheming. But she did not think that her best friend would betray her. After all, the two families were in an alliance and they were friends. They had no conflict of interest. Ji Yun was more diligent in her visits. She talked about the situation in the Celestial Emperor sect, but more about the ancient sword sect and Luli. She did not mind. She knew that her best friend was looking for a wealthy husband. If she could marry someone with potential, it would be good for both her and her family when the man made a name for himself. Ever since Luli became famous, she had expressed her desire to befriend him. She went to the banquet held for Luli. Unfortunately, the concubine was in love with the man but not with him. Luli might not even remember this person. Luli was not in the mood to chase after women. There were more than 100 people there that day, and he did not know the names of most of them. These days, Ji Yun had been pestering Wang Ningxue, asking her to take her to see Luli for a few times to chat. Wang Ningxue had no choice but to tell her that Luli was not in the Celestial Emperor realm or the Celestial Emperor city. Emperor Rui did not hide the fact that he was taking Luli away from the ancestral dragon realm from Wang Ningxue. After all, Luli would be away for so many years. It would be rude not to explain. Today Ji Yun came again. She asked Wang Ningxue to take her to where Luli was cultivating and have a romantic encounter. This could deepen their impression and maybe they could have a passionate relationship. You can't go there, Wang Ningxue was at her wit's end. She said, Sister Yun, stop thinking about my brother. I don't think you have a chance. There are so many outstanding young people in the sect. You can pick anyone. Why do you have to think about him? I have a few targets. Ji Yun's looks were quite good, but there was still a gap between her and Wang Ningxue. She could be considered a top-class beauty. She frowned. The problem is that people like Mo and I and the ancient sword sect don't like me. If he's just an ordinary playboy, do you think I'll have a good life if I marry him? Your junior brother is different. He doesn't have any background, but he has a bright future ahead of him. Furthermore, he isn't the type to lust after women. As long as I marry him, it's almost equivalent to him marrying into our G family. If he becomes a big shot in the sect in the future, how much face will I have in my family? You seem to have a point. Wang Ningxue was speechless. She thought for a while and sighed. Sister Yun, why is marriage so realistic in your eyes? Do you know Luli? Do you like Luli? Don't tell me you don't consider emotional factors when you marry? You can consider this, but I can't. Ji Yun smiled bitterly and said, My aptitude is limited. I'm afraid I won't be able to break through the sixth tribulation in this lifetime. In the eyes of the higher-ups of the family, I'm just a vase. Do you think I can choose my marriage? It's not like I've never liked someone before. How did that person end up? You know it as well. Didn't he run away with the god's stones that my family gave him? So, I see it now. If it's a political marriage, why don't I make the first move? At least your junior brother is very pleasing to the eye. All right. Wang Ningxue sighed. As a matter of fact, she wasn't much better than Ji Yun. She couldn't marry whoever she wanted, unless she could reach the Emperor realm. In that case, nobody could stop her. If she couldn't, she would be stuck at the sixth tribulation for a long time. In the end, she would need a political marriage. Of course, she was better off than Ji Yun. If she was determined not to marry, the Wang family wouldn't force her too much. So, Ningxue, you have to help me. Ji Yun said, bring me to the secret realm where Lu Li is cultivating. I will run into him in the secret realm. Maybe there will be sparks between us. If we can like each other, then it will be a blessing from heaven. You can't go. Wang Ningxue shook her head and said, the place he is at is too dangerous. You can't go in. Even if you go in, he will be suspicious. After all, someone came out of nowhere. You can't go there with your strength. He is not stupid. Don't try to be clever. Don't look down on your sister Yun. After all, I am at the middle stage of the fifth tribulation and I have many treasures. Ji Yun was obviously not convinced. She said, tell me where it is. If I really can't go, I will have to find another chance in the future. You said it yourself. He might be gone for 10 years. I am afraid that the family will force me. Wang Ningxue said helplessly, Mount Voodoo. Ji Yun was stunned. Then she sighed in frustration and said, I really can't go there. It is too dangerous. Most importantly, it is not a place for training. Even if I ask the powerful warriors of the family to bring me there, it won't make sense. That's right. Wang Ningxue smiled and encouraged her. Sister Yun, don't worry. Maybe he will come back in 3 to 5 years. I will help you by then. You will have more chances than others. That's the only way. Ji Yun seemed to be in low spirits when she heard that Lu Li was at the Mount Voodoo. She left after chatting for a bit. Wang Ningxue told her not to tell others about it or Emperor Rui would blame her. Ji Yun said she knew what to do. Why would she tell others about Lu Li's whereabouts? What if some other young ladies got there before her? Ji Yun left and went back to her own family. But soon, she sneaked out from the backyard. Then she rode on the chariot and went to a castle. Guan Qianxiu came in after she sat in the castle for a while. Seeing Ji Yun's complacent face, he was delighted and asked, You got something? Of course. Ji Yun proudly puffed out her chest and said, With this lady taking action, what can't be done? Where are my things? They are ready. Guan Qianxiu took out a ring, gave it to Ji Yun and said, Lady Ji, I hope you don't lie to me about this. It will not look good if we fall out. Don't worry. Wang Ningxue said it herself. Ji Yun grabbed the ring and checked with psychic power. She was delighted. There were 3 high-level tribulation pellets in the ring. The pellets were rare and only the Guan family could make them. With the 3 pellets, it would be easier for her to reach the 6th tribulation in the future. Where is it? Guan Qianxiu asked. Mount Voodoo. Ji Yun said with a straight face, Young Master Guan, I don't care about the feud between you and Lu Li. I just hope that if something goes wrong, you don't drag me into it. Otherwise, our families will fall out. I understand. Don't worry. If I am exposed, I will be in danger as well. If I am, it will end here. It has nothing to do with you. Chapter 27:30. Guan Qianxiu's status in the family had declined. It would be more difficult for him to do things. Not only must he do it, he must do it discreetly. It would be perfect if no one could find out. There were some demons in the black market that only recognized God's stone. More importantly, the mountain of voodoo was too remote and vicious. Nobody could go there. Therefore, if he killed Lu Li secretly and then ran away, What could the Celestial Emperor sect find out? Guan Qianxiu believed it was easy to find someone. Some demons would help. Killing them was easy, but how to do it flawlessly? Guan Qianxiu didn't want to ask the demons to do it himself. He wanted to send someone to do it. After the deed was done, he would kill the one who went to ask the demons on his behalf. In this way, the trail would be cut off. Once the person in the middle was killed, there would be no way to follow up. As long as Guan Qianxiu could not be found, the Celestial Emperor sect could not be suspicious. Without evidence, the Celestial Emperor sect would not act rashly. After all, the Guan family was a wealthy family. Luli would not come out so soon. Wang Ningxue said it would take 10 years. Only 2 years had passed. Guan Qianxiu had enough time to plan. Guan Qianxiu knew he only had one chance. He could not be impulsive. He must act when he was sure. Let's go. He did not linger in the Celestial Emperor city. He left quietly. His family no longer cared about him. He was half abandoned. Nobody would care where he went. Of course, he put on a disguise. He told someone that he was going to relax and then teleported away. Luli was still in the ancestral dragon realm. He did not plan to leave yet. He would not stop until he absorbed all the blood. His body and soul could not take it anymore. This was a great opportunity for him. How could he give it up? He continued to live a bitter life, sitting cross-legged in the blood pool. His body continuously absorbed the ancestral dragon's blood, enduring torture and pain at every moment. Every now and then, dragon energy would enter his body. He would swell up and feel like he was about to explode. He had to hold on. Only when he could not take it anymore would he stop and fall asleep at the bank. Emperor Rui never came once. He had many things to deal with. Also, Luli was here. It was unlikely that he would go into the blood pond when he could not take it anymore. If Luli was that kind of idiot, then he would rather die than embarrass Emperor Rui. Blood Fairy came back once. She merely exchanged a few words with Luli before she snuck away again. There were so many primordial divine glyphs in the area that Blood Fairy had benefited greatly. It wanted nothing more than to spend tens or even hundreds of years here. If it did so, its comprehension of divine inscriptions would definitely improve tremendously. Another year and a half passed. More than half of the blood in the pond was gone. The once huge pond had turned into a small puddle. Most of the blood was absorbed by the dragon's soul. Luli didn't absorb much himself. The dragon's soul had absorbed so much of such a precious treasure, but it still hadn't evolved. Luli had cursed for so many times in his mind. The problem was that he could not control the dragon soul. Unless he didn't go into the blood pond, he could not control the dragon soul to absorb blood. In a year and a half, his physical body had increased threefold. At this point, the base of his physical body was too big, and it was too difficult to multiply it. Luli was already very satisfied to be able to improve so much. He had absorbed too much ancestral dragon blood. Luli felt he had developed some resistance. It would be harder for him to level up in the future. That was why the dragon's soul could absorb blood so freely. Luli didn't try to stop it. After all, he didn't need much. During the year and a half, the ancestral dragon realm was in dead silence. There was no sound or living beings. It was so quiet that it was unnerving. Luli didn't have time to worry about this. He was either suffering in the blood pond or sleeping outside. How could he have time for such things? During the 3.5 years, Luli's soul was growing fast. Luli had been consuming all the top-level elixirs related to the soul. Plus, the Holy Soul Bead was providing constant nourishment. Of course, his soul was improving fast. Previously, his soul was only at the initial stage of the 5th tribulation. Now it was at the later stage of the 5th tribulation. The speed of improvement was incredible. That being said, it was only a matter of time before Luli's soul was strengthened with top-level elixirs. After the 6th tribulation, the speed of improvement would slow down. To become a powerful warrior in soul and to break the defense of a 9th rank enchanted soul, Lu Li's soul must be at least at the Emperor realm. All of this would take time. With the Holy Soul Bead, Lu Li didn't have to worry about his soul. He could focus on the cultivation of his physical body. He didn't care about anything else other than improving his physical body to the level of a quasi-emperor. That didn't mean that he could be as strong as a quasi-emperor. Powerful quasi-emperors could kill him easily. However, his defense and speed would be improved. If he wanted to be as strong as a quasi-emperor, his physical body would have to be improved many times over. Time moved on. 3 months later, Lu Li suddenly opened his eyes while sitting in the blood pond. There was a glint of surprise in his eyes. The dragon soul had stopped absorbing blood. Lu Li was excited. Was the dragon soul about to level up? Whoosh! He flew up and landed on a small hill nearby. He used psychic power to check the dragon soul in his soul. He found that the dragon soul had returned to its original form and was not moving. Nothing. Lu Li was disappointed after a while. All the blood of the ancestor of dragon had been for nothing. He stared at the dragon soul for an entire day. Still, the dragon soul showed no signs of movement. **T. Finally, Lu Li could not help but curse. Then, he dashed back into the blood pond, leaving the dragon soul alone. The moment he dived into the blood pond, he noticed that the dragon soul suddenly glowed. Then, the dragon chi from all sides began to gather around him and snuck into his body. I am doomed. Lu Li was taken aback. The energy in the dragon chi was overwhelming. Usually, he would feel like exploding when 2 strands of dragon chi went into his body. Could he survive with so much? Soon, he realized that what he had imagined didn't happen. The strands of dragon chi entered his body and went to the dragon soul. They were absorbed by the dragon soul in an instant. They didn't stay in his body at all. What is the dragon soul doing? The dragon soul had only been moving around in his body for a while, and he already felt he couldn't take it anymore. The dragon soul was absorbing the dragon chi directly? Was it out of its mind? There were hundreds of strands of dragon chi in the pond. In an instant, the dragon soul had absorbed more than 100. There was no change after the dragon soul absorbed more than 100. But somehow, Lu Li felt something was wrong. The dragon soul had never absorbed dragon chi before. It would be strange if nothing went wrong when so much powerful energy entered the dragon soul all of a sudden. Swish, swish, swish. When the last strand of dragon chi was absorbed, Lu Li suddenly noticed that all the dragon blood was surging. Then, it entered his body at a horrifying speed and was absorbed by the dragon soul. Previously, the dragon chi only flashed across Lu Li's body. But the dragon blood was different. It went into Lu Li's body through his pores. It meant that Lu Li's body was filled with dragon blood. At that moment, Lu Li felt he was going to explode. His body could not stand the pain and he passed out. Even after Lu Li passed out, the dragon blood did not stop. It kept surging into his body. The dragon blood was getting lesser and lesser. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, it was all gone. Lu Li was lying in the bear pond like a mummy. Chapter 27:31. Enchanted souls were quite common. Usually, the souls of ferocious beasts and beasts would have their consciousness erased and then be refined into souls to protect the souls. It was common knowledge in the third heaven and the endless ruins of gods that enchanted souls could level up. That being said, the chances of leveling up were small. It was rare to find 1 in 10,000. The enchanted souls that leveled up were of a low level as well. It would only happen under special circumstances. The Blood Evil Emperor knew that the dragon soul had been absorbing dragon blood. It was normal for a dragon to absorb the blood of an ancestor of a dragon. The Blood Evil Emperor had thought that the dragon's soul would level up. However, it didn't seem to be leveling up. Instead, it seemed to be mutating. This made the Blood Evil Emperor curious. He had been observing the situation of the dragon's soul. Luli carried his hope of revenge. The Blood Evil Emperor didn't want Luli to die. After the dragon's soul absorbed all the dragon energy and blood, it began to glow as if it had come to life. The dragon's scales on its body became clearer. It wandered around in Luli's soul and then disappeared into the holy soul bead. The Blood Evil Emperor was even more surprised. The holy soul bead was a powerful treasure. The Blood Evil Emperor was just a remnant soul, and he couldn't sense what was going on inside. Therefore, he didn't know what the dragon's soul had become. Normally, enchanted souls were engraved in the soul, integrated with the soul, and protected it at all times. How could the enchanted soul run away? The treasure that went into the soul was like a living thing. Inevitably, the Blood Evil Emperor was surprised. What happened after a while made the Blood Evil Emperor even more surprised. The Holy Soul bead was supposed to emit a faint green light, which could strengthen Luli's soul. At this moment, some white airflow suddenly appeared on the surface of the bead. The white airflow spread to Luli's body and was absorbed by his body. After the time for 10 breaths, Luli's skin began to change. Some looming silver scales appeared. The silver scales were light in color. It was as if Luli's body was covered with silver tattoos, which made him look more like a monster than a human being. Luli didn't know that. He had passed out. He wouldn't wake up even if someone cut him into pieces. The silver airstream kept coming out from the Holy Soul bead. The tattoos on Luli's skin were getting clearer and more solid. After a while, dragon scales appeared on his skin. They were not illusory, nor were they painted on. They were real dragon scales. This kid has also mutated. Could he have become a dragon man? The Blood Evil Sovereign was very surprised. Even though he had seen countless strange things, this was the first time he had encountered such a thing. A perfectly fine human actually mutated? Was he going to become a beast man? Crack, crack, crack. 2 bones on Luli's back suddenly protruded out. Then flesh grew out from his back. The flesh grew longer and longer. After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, Luli's back became a pair of wings. It's over. This kid has really mutated into a dragon man. The Blood Evil Emperor watched on helplessly. Although he had a lot of tricks up his sleeves, he was helpless at the moment. This was Luli's own mutation. No one could help him or stop him. Luli used to have a bloodline skill called Dragon Wings, but that was just an illusion. Now it was a real dragon wings, a part of his body just like his hands and feet. If this wasn't a mutation, then what was? He was no longer a pure-blooded human. Crack, 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 the top of Luli's spine protruded out and a silver tail grew out. 2 dragon horns grew out from his head. At the same time, his fingers grew longer and sharper, turning into dragon claws. Later on, the Blood Evil Emperor was no longer surprised. Now that Luli had grown dragon scales and wings, it was not surprising that he had a dragon tail, horns, and claws. It took more than 10 hours for the transformation to end. Luli had completely become a dragon warrior. Apart from the fact that there were no scales on his face, his entire body was covered in scales. He had dragon wings on his back, dragon horns on his head, dragon claws on his hands, and a dragon tail more than 10 feet long on his butt. He had become a small silver dragon. He hadn't woken up yet. He had been lying at the bottom of the pond, completely unaware of his own transformation. The silver airstream was still surging out from the Holy Soul bead. Even though there was no change in his appearance, his body was being transformed and strengthened. This punk's physical body. Blood Evil Emperor sensed it. He could tell that Luli's physical body was so strong that it could be compared to the body of a warrior of the Emperor realm. There was a faint trace of dragon chi flowing in his body. The dragon chi kept sneaking into his acupoints and then out, moving about in his acupoints. The chi and energy coming from his body were that of a ferocious beast, not that of a human. The beast energy was horrifying. It was as if Luli was the king of beasts and the forefather of dragons. Even though it did not affect Blood Evil Emperor, he could tell that regular lords would be overwhelmed by Luli's powerful chi and energy. Wherever the dragon chi goes, my physical body will be stronger. Blood Evil Emperor noticed something else. When the dragon chi flowed on Luli's arms, his arms would become stronger. It was the same when the dragon chi flowed on his feet and head. With this kind of defense, even an ordinary lord wouldn't be able to harm him, right? Blood Evil Emperor was surprised, happy, and worried at the same time. It was understandable that he was happy. On the other hand, he was happy because Luli's abilities had become stronger, and it was a significant improvement. He was worried that Luli would not be able to accept this. Neither would humans. Luli would lose his mind. How could Blood Evil Emperor help Luli get revenge when he was crazy? A man suddenly turning into a beast? Even a warrior of the Emperor realm would have a mental breakdown, let alone Luli. After all, humans were social animals. They needed to socialize. They could not live by themselves. What was the point of having the most powerful strength if one lived by himself? What could he do with it? Blood Evil Emperor waited quietly for Luli to wake up. He wanted to ask Luli about the situation and see if there was any solution. Blood Evil Emperor knew that Luli would not be able to accept his current appearance. He would lose his mind. This wait lasted for a full 10 days. 5 days ago, the silver airstream stopped coming out from the Holy Soul bead. Luli's physical body stopped growing as well. There were more than 300 strands of dragon chi in Luli's body. They must be the dragon chi from the pool of Ancestor Dragon. They were all in Luli's body. The dragon chi did not go back to the Holy Soul bead. Instead, it hid in Luli's acupoints and vanished. After Luli woke up, he didn't open his eyes. Instead, he shook his head in a daze. He felt like he had had a very long dream and had seen too many strange things. However, these things weren't like ordinary dreams that would fade away after waking up. It was more like someone had forced a lot of information into his soul and he had to memorize it. There was too much information. Luli needed some time to digest it. Therefore, he didn't think about anything at the moment. He just tried to sort through the information in his mind in a daze. Holy Blood of Ancestor Dragon, 3 transformations of dragons? After a while, he opened his eyes and crawled up. He murmured to himself, and was about to sit up when he realized something was wrong. There was something on his butt. Chapter 2732. Luli was in a daze. All of a sudden, he realized he had a tail in his hand. What was more, his hands had become beast claws and his arms were covered with dragon scales. Luli was scared out of his wits. He thought he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. With this jump, he realized that his speed was actually several times faster than before. With a single jump, he had rushed up 5,000 kilometers into the sky. When he looked down, he saw his own tail. Standing in midair, Luli reached out his hand to rub his face. When he raised his hands, he saw a pair of dragon claws. He was confused. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and forced himself to calm down. "Little Lu, calm down." A voice came to Luli's mind. It was the voice of the Blood Evil Emperor. Luli felt he had grasped at straws. He immediately transmitted his voice over. "Senior Fiend Sovereign, what exactly has happened? How did I become like this?" "Don't worry." The Blood Evil Emperor's voice was calm. He said, "When you were in a coma, something happened to your body. But I think it can be taken care of. Calm down. Think about it first." Luli calmed down completely after hearing the Blood Evil Emperor's words. He used his divine telekinesis to scan his body, and his expression quickly became extremely gloomy. Under his inspection, he had now become a dragon man, a complete dragon man. Other than his face being the same as before, everything else was different. His shiny silver scales gave off a cold glare. His horns were emitting a strange chi and energy. His claws were no different from those of dragons. His tail was waving and his wings were flapping. He was no different from a half-beast dragon warrior. He was a living, breathing, little silver dragon with human nature. Calm down, calm down. Luli told himself to calm down. He took several deep breaths and landed. He closed his eyes to recall what had happened. It seemed the dragon soul had absorbed dragon energy. And all the dragon blood had been absorbed? Then, he passed out because he couldn't take it anymore. Dragon soul. Luli checked his soul with psychic power to see if the dragon soul had leveled up. To his surprise, the dragon soul was gone. His soul was empty. He was astonished. The Blood Evil Emperor transmitted a message to him. Your demon soul has entered the Holy Soul Pearl. The Blood Evil Emperor told Luli about Luli's condition after he fainted. Then he said, "Punk, don't worry. We will figure out a way to turn you back into a normal human being." "Alright, thank you, Senior Evil Sovereign." Luli began to sort through the extra information in his mind after he sent the message. Previously, he thought it was a dream, but now, he realized that there was a lot of information in his mind. He calmed down and carefully organized and analyzed it. After a while, he opened his eyes and said, "Fiend Sovereign, I found a way to deal with it. This isn't a mutation. It's a divine ability. It's the innate divine ability of the ancestral dragon. The dragon soul must have devoured the ancestral dragon's blood essence, and refined the ancestral dragon's mark within the blood essence to pass this ability to me. Of course, it's also possible that I've refined a lot of giant dragon blood essence before, and it resonated with the ancestral dragon blood essence, giving me the divine dragon transformation." Divine dragon transformation? The Blood Evil Emperor was slightly stunned and asked, "Is it similar to the reverse dragon transformation? Then it's okay. I can go back to my original form at any time. As long as I am a human, I will not be rejected by humans." It's similar to the reverse dragon transformation. But it should be more powerful and more advanced. Luli made up his mind based on the information in his mind. A glint of excitement rose in his eyes. He began to connect the dots in his mind. Some questions that had been bothering him for years seemed to have been solved. He was born in the Heaven Reverse universe where many people could awaken bloodline skills. The Lu family, for example, had the Mystic Armor skill. That being said, most people only had one bloodline skill. Luli, on the other hand, had many. Burning Blood skill, Dragon Roar skill, Dragon Claw skill, Dragon Wings skill. Only today did he realize that all the skills were one, the Divine Dragon Transformation. In other words, the previous bloodline skills were not complete. They were all contained in the Divine Dragon Transformation. The dragons in the world were one family. However, there must be differences between the dragons in the human world, the dragons in the divinity and the dragons in the endless ruins. The blood Luli was absorbing was the blood of the ancestor dragon, the first ancestor dragon born in heaven and earth. The other dragons were the offspring of the ancestor dragon and other ferocious beasts. The dragon had 9 sons and each one was different. Because there were no female dragons, the second generation of the dragon clan's bloodline was naturally impure. Generation after generation, the dragon clan's bloodline would become more and more impure and weaker. The dragons of the Heaven Reverse universe could no longer be called real dragons. They merely had some genes of the dragons in their bloodline. The dragon soul in Lu Li's mind was given to Lu Ling by the dragon rebel race. That was a pure dragon. Under the influence of the dragon soul, and after absorbing some dragon blood, Luli had awakened one bloodline skill after another. That being said, those were all part of the divine dragon transformation. Today, he absorbed the blood of the ancestor dragon. Under the influence of the dragon soul, he had obtained the real bloodline skill. Before, the dragon wings were illusions and the bloodline skills were weak. Now, the divine dragon transformation was the real powerful skill of the dragon race. It was the skill contained in the origin blood of the ancestor dragon. Phew, Luli calmed down after he had sorted everything out. He roared and spread his wings. He dashed forward like a sharp sword. In an instant, he was thousands of miles away. He cried into the sky. He felt he was filled with endless strength. At that moment, he even felt that he could crush a lord and an imperial weapon. Of course, this was just a feeling. Sovereign weapons were tough. How could he crush them? Luli dashed back and landed by the pond. He could not sit down. He had to stand and cultivate. He began to study the information in his mind, trying to figure out how to deactivate the divine dragon transformation and return to his original self. However, after half a day of meditation, Luli suddenly felt weak all over. The powerful strength faded away like tidewater. He knelt on the ground and then passed out. After he fainted, the scales on the surface of his body slowly retracted into his body and gradually faded. The dragon wings and tail on his back began to shrink as well. Eventually they disappeared. So did the dragon horns and claws. They shrunk back to their original forms. Luli had become a normal human being. He lay on the ground naked, which was an indecent sight. If someone else were to pass by, they would think he was a weak young man who was being humiliated. This is a skill. Chapter 27:33. There is no one on the Mount Voodoo. Outside the Mount Voodoo came 3 old men with unique appearances. One of them was a brawny bald man, one was a white-haired Taoist priest, and the last one was a skinny old man. The 3 of them circled around the Mount Voodoo and checked with psychic power. But they didn't find any living beings. The poisonous fog on the Mount Voodoo was thick and it was everywhere. If the 3 were not lords, they wouldn't have the courage to come here. Even so, the 3 of them were careful. They used psychic power to check everywhere, but they couldn't find anyone. Is there something wrong with the information? The brawny bald man frowned. He waved his hand impatiently and said, If there is something wrong with the information, then it is none of our business. We won't refund the deposit. What a waste of our time. Zo-san, don't worry. The short old man waved his hand and said, Let's take a closer look. There are some divine glyphs in several places. Maybe they are in there. Let's go and have a look. All right. The 2 followed the short old man. After another round of searching, they arrived at the entrance of a cave. There were divine glyphs at the entrance, and they were powerful. The 3 of them noticed it, but they didn't dare to come in rashly for fear of being killed. This should be a divine glyphs of an Emperor Realm warrior. The short old man thought about it and said, Is it Emperor Rei's divine glyphs? The 3 of them were invited by Guan Qianxiu to kill Luli. Guan Qianxiu didn't hide Luli's identity, and he told them everything. The 3 of them were good friends. They were known as the 3 heroes of the Demon Lake, and they were professional assassins. If the 3 knew that Guan Qianxiu had lied to them, then the 3 of them would try their best to kill Guan Qianxiu. The 3 of them were not worried about a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect because they had assassinated disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect before. The 3 of them were good at assassination and they knew how to disguise. Last time, when they assassinated a disciple, the Celestial Emperor sect thought that the disciple was killed by a beast. Luli was alone at the Mount Voodoo, which gave the 3 a good chance. After killing Luli, they could disguise him. They could make it look like Luli had died because of touching the divine glyphs or because of cultivation deviation. The three of them were experts in this field. As for Lu Li's abilities, Guan Qianxiu and Guan Qianxiu did not state Lu Li's abilities in detail. He only mentioned that Lu Li seemed to have passed the fifth tribulation and that his physical and soul attacks were impressive. He also had a sovereign weapon. The three of them had to kill many warriors like Lu Li every year. Therefore, they wanted to kill Lu Li as soon as they found him. Then, they could disguise themselves and find a place to hide for a while. Everything would be fine after the limelight died down. Guan Qianxiu's price was very high: 5 trillion divine stones, 3 tribulation pills, and 2 precious divine medicines. The tribulation transcendence pill is very valuable, there is no market for it. What was more, Lu Li had a sovereign weapon, which was also tempting. Guan Qianxiu had originally found a scapegoat to negotiate with the three in his place. Unfortunately, the trio didn't buy it. After all, the matter of killing a heavenly emperor sect's disciple was too big. The trio didn't trust the person Guan Qianxiu found. Guan Qianxiu had to throw caution to the wind. Average warriors could not kill Lu Li. The three of them were famous murderers in the black market. With the three of them, Lu Li could be killed. The three of them were famous warriors as well. If the heavenly emperor sect found out, then the three of them would die as well. The three of them promised Guan Qianxiu that they would not let the heavenly emperor sect find out. Guan Qianxiu had no other choice but to take the gamble. This is tricky. Since the three of them were proficient in assassination, they naturally knew something about the divine patterns. They observed for a while and realized that the divine pattern was exquisite. It was a powerful defensive one and there was a warning one. The three of them were confident that they could crack the defensive one. The problem was this warning one. Once they cracked the defensive one, the one who set up the warning one would know immediately. If it was the Rui Emperor who set it up, the Rui Emperor would open the space gate at once. This place was within the Heavenly Emperor dynasty. If the Rui Emperor opened the space gate by force, he could arrive in an hour at most. Granted, an hour was enough for the three of them to kill Lu Li. The problem was that the Rui Emperor would know that someone had killed Lu Li. It was not a problem for them to run away in an hour, but they would leave some traces that the Heavenly Emperor sect could track down. Killing Lu Li was not a big deal. But if the Heavenly Emperor sect learned that it was the three of them who killed Lu Li, then it would be a grave matter. Even if the three of them could survive, they would be hunted down by the Heavenly Emperor sect. They would never see the light of day again. Taoist, what do you think? The two of them turned to the Taoist, who was the core of the three. He was the one who made the decisions. The Taoist closed his eyes and pondered. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, he said, "Let's do it." Zhou San and the bald man were filled with killing intent. If the Taoist said he would do it, then he must be confident. The Taoist explained as well. He took out a mysterious black badge and said, "We will crack the divine pattern as fast as we can and kill that punk. Then, we will throw the badge away and run. We will go to the headquarters of the Luna Pavilion. We will take a detour and leave the Heavenly Emperor dynasty. We will hide in the Water Cloud dynasty for a while." Taoist, you are so sneaky. The bald, burly man laughed and said, "Let the Luna Pavilion take the blame. We can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Those bastards from the Luna Pavilion tricked us last time. If the Heavenly Emperor sect can wipe them out, it will be perfect." The short old man sneered and said, "How about we send someone to get some evidence to the Luna Pavilion? By then, they will not be able to explain themselves." "Don't overreach yourself." The Taoist waved his hand and said, "It is obvious enough that we threw their badge away. I will smash it later so that it will not be obvious. Are the people of the Heavenly Emperor sect idiots? As long as we run fast and do not give them any evidence, the Heavenly Emperor sect will have to save face. They will have to deal with the Luna Pavilion. Their higher-ups don't like the Luna Pavilion as well. Let's do it." A heavy saber appeared in the bald man's hand. He shouted, "Let's attack together and crack it as fast as we can. Let's go in and kill that punk. Then we will run." Boom, boom, boom. The three of them attacked at the same time, using their strongest moves. The defensive pattern was indeed built by the Rue Emperor. That being said, the pattern he built was not particularly strong. In the time for one incense stick to burn, the three of them had cracked it. The three of them flew in and saw a formation of illusion. Behind the formation was a cave. Their eyes glowed. Luli was in there. Whoosh! The three of them dashed into the cave. It was an old world. There was a faint presence of living beings in this world. The three of them were more certain that Luli was in there. What? Almost at the same time, the Rue Emperor, who was in the Heaven Emperor realm, put down the goblet in his hand. There were no treasures in the Voodoo Mountain. Instead, it was filled with toxic fog. Normally, nobody would go there, let alone crack the divine patterns. Not to mention to crack his runes. It was highly possible that someone was targeting Luli. Someone was trying to assassinate his disciple? Chapter 2734. The realm of ancestral dragons was a vast place. The three heroes of the Demon Lake had always been working together. As soon as they came in, they flew quickly and used psychic power to check for Luli. Unlucky for them, they were heading in the opposite direction of where Luli was. It would take them some time to find Luli. They were flying fast, almost at the top of their speed. They were racing against time. If they could not kill Luli in an hour, they would have to go back empty-handed. What is that? After flying for a while, the short old man suddenly frowned. They discovered an ancient divine imprint in a certain location, and beneath the divine imprint, there was a red beam of light that resembled a snake. It was an illusory silhouette. "It is just a goblin. Don't worry about it. Go and find him." The old man did not mind. If time allowed, they might take the goblin. But now was not the time. The three of them flew away and soon vanished into the distance. The goblin in the pattern was Blood Fairy. She did not have human emotions, but that did not mean that she could not make judgments. Blood Fairy sensed the murderous intent of the three. As soon as they left, she snuck away from underground and flew toward Luli. Luli was still in a coma. He had been sleeping for half a day without any signs of waking up. It took Blood Fairy the time for one incense stick to burn to come back. She sneaked back into Luli's body. Seeing that Luli was in a coma, Blood Fairy was anxious. She kept sending messages to Luli. "Master, wake up. Some powerful warriors are here. I think they are looking for you." What? The Blood Emperor sensed that something was wrong with Blood Fairy. Though he could not talk to her, he could tell that she was in a hurry. What could possibly make Blood Fairy so anxious? The Blood Emperor was a warrior that almost became a Saint Emperor. He made up his mind. A strand of soul energy came out from his bead of soul and surged into Luli's soul. Luli woke up at once. When Luli woke up, he was still in a daze and felt weak. Before he was fully awake, Blood Fairy said again, "Master, you are finally awake. I just saw 3 people and all of them are powerful warriors. I think they are not friendly. They are filled with murderous intent. I think they are looking for you." 3 powerful warriors? Luli took out a robe and put it on. He asked a few questions. Blood Fairy told him about the situation, and he pulled a long face. "This place is filled with poisonous fog. Who would come here for no reason?" In addition, the old Taoist had said, "Don't worry about it. Look for the person first." This was too obvious. It should be targeted at him. Based on Blood Fairy's judgment, these 3 were at least lords. Luli's heart sank. He thought about it and crushed the jade talisman that the Rue Emperor had given him. There was no more dragon blood here anyway, so there was no point for him to stay here. No matter what the situation was, it was better to give the Rue Emperor a warning. If he was killed, the Rue Emperor could also avenge him. He was not in a hurry to rush out, because even if he left the Wuma mountain, he might not be able to leave. There was too much poisonous fog. Besides, he was still weak at the moment. If he ran around recklessly, it would be easier for him to die. No matter who these three people were, or who sent them, he treated him as an enemy. Calculating in his mind, he decided to seize the time to comprehend and grasp the Divine Dragon transformation first. Divine Dragon transformation was a type of mystic art. Previously, when he was comprehending it, he wanted to dispel it. However, because his body couldn't take it anymore, it automatically dispelled itself. Because he was too weak, he fainted. Luli sat on the ground with his legs crossed and asked Blood Fairy to be on guard nearby. He consumed some elixirs to restore himself to the peak state. The Blood Emperor did not send a message to Luli, nor did he offer any guidance. The Blood Emperor was curious. He wanted to see how strong Luli was. Luli had learned some of the Divine Dragon transformation before. It was already in his mind, so he didn't have to study it out of thin air. After a while, he had a general idea. That being said, he only knew how to release the Divine Dragon transformation but did not have the time to study how to dispel it. The efficacy of the elixirs spread across his body. Luli mobilized divine energy to dissolve the effect. A moment later, when the effects were all gone, Luli finally felt less weak. He waited and studied the Divine Dragon transformation at the same time, hoping to master this skill completely. However, a moment later, he heard 3 loud noises coming from the distance. Then, 3 strong psychic powers locked onto him. They are enemies. Luli sensed the killing intent from the psychic powers. His heart skipped a beat. He opened his eyes at once and flew up. The 3 glanced at him. The bald man took out the portrait and glanced at it. He grinned and said, "That's right, it's this brat. Kill him." "Wait!" Luli shouted, "Do you know who I am? I am a disciple of the Heaven Emperor sect, the disciple of Emperor Ru. Are you sure you have the right person? We are looking for you." The bald man sneered and said, "Kid, don't blame us. You offended someone yourself, and we were just paid by them to get rid of this disaster. You can go in peace." "Wait!" Luli yelled again. Secretly, he began to use the skill of dragon and heaven armor. He took out the horn and said coldly, "Who wants to buy my life? What is the price? I will pay 10 times the price for his life." 10 times the price? The 3 of them almost started a fight just now. They were stunned by Luli's words. Guan Xianxiu had offered a high price. If Luli offered 10 times the price, they could go back on their words. They were not from the same assassin organization. Guan Xianxiu wouldn't spread the news. At the very least, they could kill Guan Xianxiu and nobody would know. The old Taoist was startled for a moment and asked, "Someone spent 30 trillion godstones. Can you take out 30 trillion godstones? Or something of the same value?" "Of course." Luli took out the 7-colored glazed pagoda and said, "This is a sovereign weapon. You know how much it is worth, right? I can give it to you. Also, I have some other valuable treasures that I can give to you. If we kill you, the treasures will still be ours, right?" The old Taoist snorted. "It is not the same." Luli shook his head. "My master sent me here in person. Not everyone can come here and they won't come here. If I die, he will investigate and so will the Heaven Emperor sect. By then, you will have a hard time even if you can run away. If you take my treasures and leave now, the Heaven Emperor sect will not make a big fuss as long as I am alive. So this is a better deal for you, isn't it?" "You have a point," the old Taoist said with a smile. "Then give us the spiritual connection with the sovereign weapon first, and then we can talk about other things." "That is easy. I have not taken control of the sovereign weapon yet. I can give it to you now." Luli waved his hand. The 7-colored glazed pagoda flew over at a moderate speed. It was not activated and there was no pressure. It seemed that he had not taken control of the sovereign weapon and was giving it to the three directly. Ha ha! The bald man's eyes glowed with excitement. He came to the seven-colored glazed pagoda and reached out his hand to grab it. The old Taoist shouted, "Bald man, come back!" Buzzing, the seven-colored glazed pagoda suddenly glowed. Flames surged out and enveloped the bald man. The bald man was strong, but he was on fire as well. He retreated in fear, screaming in pain. Courting death. The old Taoist and the short old man flew into a rage. They dashed toward Lu Li from the left and right. One of them had a spear in his hand and the other one had a sword in his hand. They came to Lu Li in an instant and began to attack at the same time. Chapter 27:35. To release the dragon transformation was simple. Lu Li just had to mobilize the dragon chi from his acupoints to fill his body and then trigger the dragon blood in his bloodline. The dragon blood would stimulate his body and bring about changes. Lu Li guided the dragon chi out of his body quickly. His blood was boiling. Powerful chi and energy spread out from many parts of his body. His chi and blood were soaring as well. Bang, 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 bang. Following that, the robe on his body burst open, and dragon scales emerged and covered his entire body. A pair of dragon wings sprouted from his back, and a dragon tail grew as well. Dragon horns sprouted from his head. His eyelids were covered with dragon scales. His eyes turned silver and his hands turned into dragon claws. The old man and the old man were about to attack Lu Li from the left and right. How did Lu Li suddenly transform? He had become a dragon man. His chi and blood had become horrifying. At this moment, the two of them felt as though they were facing an extremely tyrannical dragon. The mountainous blood and chi pressure made it hard for them to breathe. The two were stunned for the time for one breath. In a fight between powerful warriors, one breath could decide life and death. Luckily, Lu Li hadn't gotten used to it yet. Otherwise, the two would have been attacked by Lu Li. Lu Li stared at the short old man coldly. Once again, the short old man was taken aback. What kind of eyes were those? To the short old man, Lu Li's eyes were not like those of a human. They were more like those of a dragon. Violent, bloodthirsty, arrogant, cold, without a trace of human emotions. The short old man felt he was back to when he was a kid, facing his first powerful beast. He felt so small, so humble, as if Lu Li could kill him with one move. Swish, Lu Li waved his dragon claws at the short old man. At that moment, the short old man finally came to his senses. He tried to step back. Lu Li realized this man was fast. He might not be as fast as Lu Li. An idea came to Lu Li's mind. He swung his tail and entangled half of the short old man's body. Die, die! The short elder's body was bound by the dragon tail and he panicked. He swung the sword in his hand and fiercely slashed at the dragon tail. He released a very tyrannical true meaning. The longsword emitted a blue mist, and when the longsword slashed down, the void was actually pierced, creating a crack. Bang! The long sword landed on the dragon's tail. With a muffled sound, several scales were cracked. There was a blood stain on the dragon's tail. Lu Li felt a sharp pain. His eyes glowed with a red light, and the ferocious aura on his body grew even stronger. His dragon claws suddenly clawed at the short old man's head, and the other clawed at his arm. Buzz! All of a sudden, a blue halo appeared around the short old man and enveloped his head. Lu Li made a muffled sound when he tried to grab the halo. He could not get in. However, the other dragon claw had done its job, directly crushing the short old man's shoulder. An armor appeared over the old man's body, but it was crushed easily. Then his shoulder was crushed as well. One of his arms was torn off by Lu Li and his sword was knocked away as well. Bang! Lu Li felt a sharp pain on his back. A spike had pierced through the scales on his back and into his body. Luli turned around and saw the Taoist was stabbing at his back. Luli yelled in rage and swung his dragon claw. The old man stepped back quickly, but he was still hit by the dragon claw. There were 3 deep cuts on his chest armor. Die! Luli didn't mind the old man anymore. He waved his blood claw at the short old man. Half of the old man's body was entangled by the dragon's tail, and he could not move. His arm that was holding the sword was torn apart. He had other powerful skills, but he could not use them for now. Luli kept waving his dragon claw. Soon, the short old man's body was smashed. Apart from his head, the rest of his body was crushed. The old man's head had a strong defensive skill. Luli could not crack it. He could only smash the old man's body into pieces. You want to run? The old man's body was smashed, but his head was still alive. It tried to fly away in a blur. Luli flapped his wings and chased after him. He grabbed the old man's head with one claw and punched with the other. After more than a dozen punches, the shield cracked and the old man's head was smashed. Bang, bang, bang! Luli had just smashed the old man's head when he heard 7 or 8 noises behind him. Luli had no time to dodge. He felt a sharp pain on his back. He felt a gust of wind piercing into his back and exploding inside his body. Poof! He spat out some blood. He staggered and turned around to look at the old man. The old man's eyes were filled with astonishment. He looked at Luli and had a strong suspicion. Was this man a human? Or a beast in human form? His attacks were strong. Even a warrior at the initial stage of the Lord Realm would die. The short old man's attacks were powerful as well. How could he not cut off Luli's tail? How could a warrior at the initial stage of the 5th Tribulation Realm be so strong with his body alone? Only a strange beast could explain this. Guan Xianxiu, screw you! The old Taoist cursed. Although the 3 heroes of the Demon Lake weren't blood brothers, they had been through thick and thin together for so many years. They were even closer than blood brothers. One of them was dead and the other was burnt beyond recognition. How could he not be angry? Bald guy, are you dead? If not, go. I will hold them off. The old man shouted and was ready to leave. He could kill Luli, but Luli's defense was so strong that it would take him some time. It took them some time to crack the defensive patterns and search for Luli. Even Emperor Rui might come if they kept this up. As an assassin, it was natural for him to run away when he missed his target. This was the most important factor for survival. He wanted to avenge the short old man, but reason told him that he must leave. You want to run? Luli shouted. His voice seemed to come from his throat, more like the roar of a beast. He flapped his wings. Instead of rushing toward the old man, he dashed toward the bald man who was still rolling on the ground. How dare you! Seeing that Luli was running toward the bald man, the old man flew into a rage. He put away the spear in his hand and took out a hammer. The hammer was covered with divine patterns and had black air flowing around. Clearly, it was a valuable piece of treasure. He moved closer to Luli quickly and smashed at Luli with the hammer. The hammer grew in size at once, glowing in a dark light. Space was trembling as the hammer smashed at Luli with a force that could destroy heaven and earth. Ha ha! Luli suddenly turned around. He ignored the hammer and dashed toward the old man like crazy. The old man had just activated the hammer and it was difficult for him to step back. He swung the huge hammer at Luli. Whoosh! Luli's tail wrapped around the old man. At the same time, one of his claws turned into a fist and he punched at the old man's head, ready to take the blow. While the old man was being entangled by his tail, the hammer hit Luli's fist. Luli's fist was cracked. His bones were broken and blood gushed out. Boom! Luli was smashed down. Since the old man was entangled by Luli's tail, he was dragged down as well. There was a pit on the ground. The ground trembled and dust rose up. Oh no! In the dust, the old man could see Lu Li's beast-like cold eyes. When he saw Lu Li waving his other claw at him, the old man sighed to himself. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.